100 helpless kids were shoved into a brutal mountain cage, built for one sick purpose, to forge an absolute monster. After grinding through years of pure agony, only one single boy, he walked out packing abilities so insanely busted that folks crowned him the demon god. But here is the kicker. The guy is completely clueless about how normal society actually functions. So the most lethal dude breathing rebrands himself as a basic bodyguard, secretly tracking down the twisted master who ruined his childhood. The real question is how many opponents will drop before he finally gets his payback. It all kicked off when a mysterious treasure map dropped, supposedly leading to the lost techniques of Chan Gija, history's most legendary grandmaster. Stashed somewhere deep in Hengshan alongside his ultimate secret weapon, this hyped-up jackpot reignited the fierce chaos of the Muram world that had been snoozing for decades. Suddenly, a massive flock of birds scattered wildly from a colossal boulder. Boom! A deafening shockwave sliced the massive stone clean in half, kicking up a massive storm of debris. Chunks of rock rained down as Hyung-woo grabbed his shattered blade, muttering that he finally broke out of that hellhole. He squinted at the horizon, stating as a matter of fact that the sky up there is supposed to be blue. Staring down at his scarred palms, it hit him. The trauma of the cave had completely wiped his memory. No matter how deep he dug into his brain, his past was just a giant blank. But one burning thought remained crystal clear: absolute, merciless revenge. His earliest flashback drags him back to when he was just 10 years old. He pictured Chan Gija, that exact same twisted mentor, pressing a hand to his chest and whispering that they would not get it yet. But in exactly a decade, they would be the ones saving the world. Out of hundreds of bloodlines, Chan Gija kidnapped exactly 100 kids, and he was trapped in that batch. He can still feel that ice-cold glare piercing his soul as the old man ordered absolute obedience. The very next sunrise, their brutal martial arts conditioning, they were told to sleep while they could. Being a stray orphan, Hyung-woo did not even flinch, but Chan Gija casually warned the runners that the only exit was deadbolted shut. It would be a huge shame if someone tried to rebel right off the bat, would it not? From that second on, the nightmare training kicked into high gear. Every single breath, bite of food, and minute of sleep was heavily micromanaged. Zero freedom allowed. The rookies started with the basics, a breathing technique called the art of three energies, drawing raw power straight from the heavens, the earth, and the core of humanity itself. Once they nailed that, they moved on to blades, mastering the three energies sword art, alongside some insane footwork to practically teleport across the back, known as the three-energy dash. Basically, under this psycho's watch, they had to completely relearn how to walk. About 3 brutal years later, he rounded up the survivors, hyping up his teachings, claiming it was the ultimate cheat code to reach the divine tier of the martial world. For the next 7 years, they were ordered to grind this technique to absolute perfection. They each had to push open a massive door and step into the pitch-black abyss to stop an upcoming doomsday. They needed to train like absolute maniacs with zero limits. When the gates finally cracked open, the kids scattered into the darkness. It was right then that it clicked in his brain. The only reason they were shoved into this grinder was purely because of Chan Gija's twisted ambition. Following orders, they grinded endlessly inside that cavern, where the thick fog was literally dripping with raw, concentrated chi. Sure, their stats skyrocketed daily, but the pressure grew so violently toxic that reality itself started glitching out. Swirling black auras surrounded them, leaving them totally clueless. Before they could even process the threat, a massive, grotesque nightmare clawed its way out of the shadows, snapping its razor-sharp tongue. The beasts lunged, and right then and there, the literal gates to hell swung wide open. The kids instinctively drew their blades, plunging into a relentless daily nightmare just to stay breathing. Even though their combat skills leveled up insanely fast from the live combat, compared to hitting rocks in a misty cave, he was the absolute only one left standing. His last fallen brother screamed his name, Hyung-woo, passing the torch of survival to him. Yeah, that was it. His name is Dan Hyung-woo. Fast forward a bit, and our guy wanders right into a bustling cloud pavilion. The streets were absolutely packed, and the local inn was just as jammed with people. Hyung-woo stepped through the tavern doors, instantly locking onto a certain girl across. She was none other than the VIP daughter of the Jo clan's head honcho, Jo Solyeon. Her eyes snapped straight to his, instantly picking up his terrifying vibe. She nudged her guard Jo in, whispering for him to check out the strange guy. He was packing a completely naked blade, covered in jagged cracks. Cho-in's eyes locked onto the blade, instantly recognizing it wasn't your average piece of metal. Coming from the bloodline of the Cho clan patriarch, he had an eye for these things. Meanwhile, Hyunwoo was just focused on securing a hot meal, as the server hit him with a cheerful, "Enjoy your food." Honestly, when was the last time he actually sat down for a real dinner? He slurped up a massive bite of steam, and his eyes widened. The flavors practically exploded, melting into pure savory bliss. It totally made sense why this joint was constantly packed. And from across the room, Soleung couldn't stop staring. She couldn't wrap her head around why this random, scruffy guy had her completely hypnotized. Demolishing the last drop of broth, Hyunwoo wiped his mouth. "Man, that hit the spot," he told the server. The server beamed, clearly stoked, but then extended an expectant hand. "Glad to hear it. That'll be 5 coins, please." Hyunwoo froze. Wait, money? The concept had totally slipped his mind. He scratched his head. "I'm supposed to pay for this." The server's smile instantly vanished into a deep scowl. Is this a prank? You ate the food. You gotta cough up the cash." "Yeah, I'm totally broke," Hyunwoo stated, completely deadpan. The server scoffed, absolutely baffled. "Wow, at least you—" "Then hand over that fancy sword." But Hyunwoo instantly gripped the hilt, his aura going ice cold. "No way. I traded my best friend's life for this." The server completely lost it, his voice echoing across the tavern. "Are you kidding me? So you literally planned to dine and dash?" Heads immediately snapped toward them, a nosy crowd forming to watch the drama unfold. Suddenly, Cho-in let out an exasperated grunt as she marched right into the chaos, pulling out a heavy coin pouch. "Hey, back off," she told the furious server. "Put his tab on my bill." Flashing a warm, effortless smile, she tossed the cash. The server just stood there, completely jaw-dropped. Hyunwoo slowly turned his gaze, locking eyes with her. Total silence. The gears in his head were spinning. She just bailed him out, and social cues dictated he should probably say something right about now. But as Soleung studied him up close, her gut feeling was totally validated. His eyes, they were wide and intensely innocent, like a toddler seeing the universe for the very first time. He parted his lips, but no words came out. Instead, he just spun on his heel and bolted. Soleung blinked, utterly thrown off, muttering, "I really thought he was going to say something." The whole room was left scratching their heads. Did this dude seriously just dip without dropping a single thank you? Cho-in scoffed. What an ungrateful bum. But Soleung shook her head. He must have been literally starving. "That's not even the wildest part," Cho-in fired back, narrowing his eye. The guy had zero aura, like absolutely no inner chi. Soleung gasped, piecing the puzzle together. "But did you see that blade? It was insane. Literally anyone with eyes could tell a Grandmaster forged that weapon. But if he keeps roaming around with a naked blade like that, he's begging to get jumped. I have to track him down. I can't just let him wander off into a bloodbath." He desperately needed a sheath. Meanwhile, wandering the bustling streets, the realization finally smacked Hyunwoo in the face. Since she covered his tab, he probably should have hit her with a quick "thank you." Fast forward a bit, and a massive, restless crowd was piling into the legendary The energy in the room was suffocating. It was a high-stakes summit to gauge the sheer, terrifying power of the Miram Alliance. Soleung glanced around, whispering that the venue was literally crawling with top-tier Alliance fighters. Cho-in nodded, crossing his arms. "It's insane. I never thought the Alliance leader would actually step out of the shadows and strike first." The chief commander of the Sima Cho clan's elite escort squad was gearing up to push forward without a second of hesitation. With the ruthless unorthodox faction and the savage Green Forest bandits closing in hot, they had literally zero choice but to act fast. He knew the threat was real, but let's be honest, half these people were only following him because of his god-tier clout. We're talking about Jong Gija, the absolute undisputed GOAT of martial arts history. Legends claim the man could literally see the future, manipulating thousands of lethal, mind-bending traps, packing devastating combat skills, and possessing a freakish ability to read the universe's celestial energy like an open book. Before he checked out, Jong Gija dropped a final nuke on the martial world, a legendary technique called Shadow Blade Flash. It completely broke the meta. By fusing his trap mastery in a totally bizarre way, he passed this god-tier skill down to some random drifter, transforming a literal nobody into an unstoppable powerhouse in just 3 years. Obviously, this overnight master was instantly branded a global threat and got taken out in the most brutal, humiliating way possible. But that only spiked the hype around Jonggija. Every major faction started hunting for his legacy. But the man had just ghosted. Poof, gone without a single trace. That is until the Cho clan patriarch stumbled upon a legendary treasure map, supposedly leading straight to Jonggija's hidden vaults. And of course, the entire Miram world swarmed after him like sharks smelling blood. Since Choin was tagging along on his father's direct orders, they were technically safe, but they had to stay crazy paranoid. Because let's face it, the Miram world is a chaotic mess where anything can go down. A while later, Choin shot his sister a dark look. "Are you seriously still obsessing over that street rat?" he scoffed. "Hard pass. The guy is a total nobody and doesn't even know basic manners." Throwing her pity at a stranger was a huge mistake. Sol Yun tried to push back, but Sima Chol immediately shut it down. Splitting up right now, absolute suicide. Plus, the alliance leader was practically breathing down their necks to get here, right? Her shoulders slumped. Staring at the dirt, Sol Yun quietly caved, whispering that she would follow their lead. Meanwhile, Hyunwoo was practically ghosting through the bustling city streets, drifting toward a loud, chaotic market. Merchants were screaming out prices, shoppers were haggling aggressively, and somewhere, heavy bass pumped while locals danced it out. Taking it all in, Hyunwoo couldn't believe how insanely peaceful the outside world actually was. His eyes locked onto a sweet mom and her little boy. The kid was beaming, thanking his mom for buying him a treat. That simple, pure moment hit Hyunwoo like a truck, dragging him straight back to a dark memory. His boy Aksagi had grabbed him, looking dead in the eye, swearing they had to break out of that hellhole. Out there, they could finally live, just do regular stuff they had only dreamed of. But Aksagi begged for one massive favor. If only Hyunwoo made it out, he had to track down his childhood home and break the news to his old man. Hyunwoo wasn't having that grim talk. He forced a laugh, shoving his friend lightly, and fired back that Aksagi was going to tell his dad himself. Yeah, they were both getting out of there alive. Nobody was dying on his watch. They were surviving this. But the second the bloodbath kicked off, the monster locked onto them. Aksagi screamed at Hyunwoo to duck. Time froze as Hyunwoo spotted the absolute nightmare charging right at him. But before he could even flinch, Aksagi shoved him away, tanking the brutal fatal strike. He died instantly. Hyunwoo was completely paralyzed. That hit had his name on it. Dropping to his knees, he begged his bro to get up. They had to go see his dad, but with his dying breath, Aksagi gasped that Hyunwoo was always the heavy hitter. He had to survive. He had to carry the guilt and tell his dad. He was so sorry. Just like that, all his friends, their entire futures snapped in half. Hyunwoo's freedom had a brutal price tag, 99 dead friends. He was living on borrowed time, and he swore on their graves he was going to rip that debt straight out of Jonggija's flesh. Snapping back to reality, he realized his feet had dragged him right back to the start. Pushing the heavy door open a crack, he spotted the exact same girl who covered his tab. She was still here, and it hit him. He literally ghosted without saying thanks. Peeking through the gap, he noticed her entire squad hyping each other up. If they skipped taking a breather, they would hit their drop zone in exactly 24 hours. They had to hustle and keep the pace. The crew ate up their captain's words, screaming out a massive hell yeah. Like a swarm of bees, they flooded out of the building. Hyunwoo watched totally confused as Sil Yoon dashed out of the cafe right alongside them. She was rolling deep with this clan. But where the hell were they rushing to? Fast forward a bit, and the massive squad finally set up camp, right at the border of Hungshan. Hyunwoo stalked them from the shadows, his stomach dropping. Were they seriously walking into the exact slaughterhouse he just escaped? There was another squad trailing them, heading into the same death trap. What kind of suicide mission was this? Suddenly, a guard muttered that the old-school Green Forest bandit cartel had totally flipped their script. That set off massive red flags. Shifting alliances in a war zone is a guaranteed bloodbath. His partner backed him up, whispering that the bandits were marching completely backward, straight away from the real target. Another guy tried to play it cool, saying they were stressing over nothing. But the top dog, Dokgo, the tactical brain of the Chan-Chan alliance, narrowed his eyes. Was that true, or was his legendary gut feeling starting to rot? Just then Sol Yoon let out a heavy sigh, trying to shake off the exhaustion. The second in command of the Rising Dragon squad slid up to her, but Colin from the Miram alliance was watching closely. The guy smirked, asking if the little lady was worn out, offering to beg the boss for an extra break. Colin instantly stepped in front of her, shutting that creep down hard. He warned the guy to back the hell off, swearing he would guard her. Before the tension could explode, a nightmare stepped out of the woods. "Peekaboo, I found you," a raspy voice echoed. "You Murim rats thought you could hide from me." It was the bloodthirsty demon, a savage warlord from the Green Forest and the absolute kingpin of a wicked rogue fortress. Shun immediately barked at the squad, screaming at everyone to draw their blades. This wasn't a normal fight. They were facing a completely unhinged alliance. Dako's eyes went cold. He knew the blood demon was an elite martial arts freak who wouldn't go down without a massacre. "Let these old-school losers drown in their own blood," the warlord shrieked. Instantly all hell broke loose. Swords clashed in a blinding frenzy, and the alliance guys started dropping like flies. Crimson splashed across the dirt as absolute chaos shredded the front line. Laughing maniacally, the warlord bragged about stomping the trash, but the words literally choked in his throat as Doko launched himself directly into the meat grinder. The bandit's eyes lit up with psycho glee. "Doko," he roared, blasting into the sky to meet him. Their heavy blades smashed together like a bomb going off. Meanwhile, on the ground, the savage bandits kept butchering the desperate defenders. Doko. His fingers trembled violently against the hilt of his blade, the crushing reality sinking in. He was hopelessly outnumbered. The bandit leader flashed a cocky smirk, mocking him that surviving. The alliance commander stepped forward, declaring that the hidden trump card left behind by Jonggija was rightfully theirs to claim. That name, Jonggija, hit Hyunwoo like a massive shockwave. In a split second, a solid boulder was sliced clean in half, and Hyunwoo exploded forward. His bitter rival Doko completely froze in pure shock, seeing him there, but quickly snapped out of it, jumping into the bloodbath to crush the bandits. Crimson sprayed across the dirt as the thugs broke formation, scattering like terrified rats in every direction. After unleashing those absolute god-tier strikes, Hyunwoo locked eyes with the survivors, his glare screaming pure, unfiltered murder. The entire alliance was totally shook, jaws literally hitting the floor. Solhyang and Doko locked eyes, completely paralyzed by the sheer insanity of the scene. But wait, where the heck was Jonggija? Doko's mind was spinning. Where did this monster even come from? He hadn't sensed a single drop of aura before this. Chan pivoted toward him cautiously, admitting he was super grateful for the backup, but asked why on earth he was hunting for that guy out here in the wild. Jonggija has been dead for 10 whole years. That bombshell froze Hyunwoo down to his very bones. His voice cracked as he demanded, "Is Jonggija dead?" He hadn't even paid back the massive blood debt for his slaughtered brother. "I refuse to believe that," he muttered, dropping his dead-eyed stare to the ground. Suddenly, an eerie pulsing glow started bleeding through the dark woods, spreading so silent, yet this bizarre, hollow warmth was rapidly creeping into his veins, triggered by this freakish aura. The mighty Murim warriors instantly shut down completely, their bodies locking up like broken statues, totally powerless to even twitch. Suffocating under an overwhelming wave of pure despair, the entire squad blacked out and hit the dirt. Hyunwoo suddenly realized he had crawled through actual hell and clawed his way back to the land of the living. The dying whispers of his fallen comrades echoed in his skull, begging him to deliver the tragic truth to their families. It was his sacred duty to unleash brutal karma for those who were slaughtered so unfairly. Feeling that toxic void energy spiking, he knew that if he didn't pull the plug right now, every single Murim fighter would get totally wiped out, their life force drained to zero. He had to nuke this cursed aura, and fast. Solhyang cautiously stepped up softly, asking, "Are you okay?" Hyunwoo locked eyes with her, a sudden flash of recognition hitting him. She was the sweet girl he had. That pure compassion instantly flashed him back to his fallen squad. Their ultimate sacrifice was the sole reason he survived that nightmare. But with Gija confirmed dead, his desperate thirst for vengeance had hit a massive brick wall. Now his only mission was to track down their grieving families. The guys nearby started frantic, realizing that the suffocating paralysis was completely wiped away. They gasped in total disbelief. Wait, what? He cleared it out too. Dako's mind was blown as he sensed the void aura completely evaporate. Not even legendary grandmasters could pull off a flex like that. Just who the heck was this guy? Hyunwoo stared intensely for a beat, then averted his cold eyes. "Are you trying to find someone?" Solhyang asked gently. She then whipped around to her own. The least they could do was help him hunt down whoever he was searching for. She paused, biting her lip while Sima Chol aggressively debated whether he could actually reject his niece's plea to help their literal savior. But on the flip side, the elite squad had just barely— Would the big boss actually greenlight bringing a wild card along? Doko dropped his stare, a heavy silence hanging in the air. It suddenly clicked for him this nameless guy had absolutely steamrolled the Green Forest thugs and the unorthodox faction goons in a literal blink. He was a walking, lethal weapon, and considering how badly their squad got crippled, keeping this powerhouse on a leash was way smarter than letting him roam free. Nodding in agreement, he reached out his hand for a Sima Chol cut to the chase, offering him a gig at their heavy-duty escort agency. The peanut gallery instantly erupted, throwing out totally confused murmurs. Signing up with an ultra-strict security squad was no joke. Hyunwoo chewed on the offer for a second, bluntly replying that he was on the fence about it. Out of nowhere, Cho-in loudly snapped that their elite agency didn't just hand out contracts to any random drifter, so he better not act all high and mighty by rejecting them. Hyunwoo shot back that he wasn't flat out saying no, but he honestly had zero clue what the job even demanded. The crowd was totally baffled, exchanging weird looks. Sensing the awkward vibes, Solhyang stepped up to break it down for him. Escort agencies are hardcore security teams that guard VIP cargo and physically protect clients on the road. Sima Chol watched the interaction, heavily stressing over whether rolling the dice on this guy was a massive mistake. The squad whispered among themselves, roasting this absolute country bumpkin, but they couldn't ignore the sheer menace dripping off his sword. Pure bloodthirsty killing intent was leaking from the blade, a dead giveaway that this was no ordinary weapon. One of the dudes scoffed, whispering, "How the heck did a masterpiece like that wind up strapped to a literal nobody?" Honestly, an epic weapon like that deserved a true master, way more than it needed a random peasant. But the area was totally flooded with witnesses right now, so they decided to play the waiting game, holding off until the alliance boss and the squad captain bounced for Hangshan. Hours passed, as dusk painted the sky with a gorgeous blood-orange sunset. The crew finally rolled up to the towering Hangshan Rock, and Chan Chan announced that this was exactly the spot. A creepy, unsettling vibe instantly washed over them. The squad nervously traded paranoid looks, and Hyunwoo instantly clocked that they were hunting for that specific legendary zone. Doko chimed in, hyped up, asking if they were finally going to uncover Jong Gija's ultimate secret arts. But Chan Chan crushed their hype, admitting with a heavy sigh that they were completely blind. With zero clues in sight and the clock ticking down, they couldn't afford to stall. They'd have to literally carve a bloody path straight through the mountain. Doko warned that using brute force might totally wreck Jong Gija's legacy. Hyunwoo paused, gears turning in his head. His original exit was completely caved in. He needed to pinpoint the exact spot Jong Gija had tapped into. Trusting his gut, he homed in on a faint, lingering aura radiating from behind a massive boulder. He dashed over, touching down lightly on the rock face. "The entrance is right here," he declared. Doko's jaw practically hit the floor. "Wait, how do you even know that?" Hyunwoo just shrugged. "I used to live here." Seolyan blinked, stunned. In a dump like this, Hyunwoo let out a low chuckle. Honestly, it tracked. Word on the street was he survived in the wild, like an absolute beast. Suddenly, his beat-up vibe and that naked, unsheathed blade made total sense. Doko threw his hands up, instantly barking orders for the search team to move out. The tactical advisor and the captain of the Rising Dragon squad locked down the perimeter. "Yes, sir," his right-hand man barked back. Doko turned to Hyunwoo, shaking his head. "Looks like I owe you big time." Again, Hyunwoo's expression stayed deadpan. "Don't bother. There's literally nothing in there. Just the ghosts of a massacre." Peering into the abyss, a chilling wave of dark mana washed over him. Watching him, Doko's eyes softened with heavy pity. Or maybe it was just the heavy vibe of the cave playing tricks. Doko gave Hyunwoo's shoulder a firm squeeze. "Sit this one out, you've done enough." Doko signaled Cheon, and the two veterans dove straight into the darkness. Meanwhile, Hyunwoo hung back. He knew Jong Gija was practically on ice anyway, so it wasn't his circus, not his monkeys. Just then, Seolyan jogged over, her eyes sparkling. "Did you seriously crash in this creepy place?" she asked, flashing a warm smile. Hyunwoo met her gaze, utterly unfazed. Boom. Out of nowhere, two heavily armed dudes shoved past her, blocking his path. "Hey, what is your problem? How do we know this stray isn't a rat for the bandits?" one sneered. Seolian threw her hands up. Are you insane? He literally just saved our lives, the other guy scoffed. Oh, really? What if playing the hero is just a sick little mind game to get us to drop our guard? The thug smirked, stepping way too close. If you're so innocent, pal, hand over the sword, right now. Peering closer, the guy's eyes narrowed. The blade looked like absolute trash, rusted and chipped, but the raw, lethal bloodlust practically screaming from the steel was terrifying. Hyunwoo's grip tightened on the hilt. You want it. The punk smirked, extending a greedy hand. Hand it over, tough guy. Hyunwoo's eyes went dead cold. A dead friend gave me this. So unless you plan on killing me, nobody touches it. The silence that followed was suffocating. The thug just kept smirking while Seolian watched her breath hitching. In a split second, the tension snapped. Hyunwoo's instincts flared. The second goon had already ghosted behind his back for a blindside ambush. A classic pincer move. Front and back perfectly synced. Fine. If they wanted to play dirty, he'd just duck and slice them both in half. The duo locked eyes and lunged. But Hyunwoo was 10 steps ahead, effortlessly reading their sloppy footwork. Should have just handed it over, idiot. Now you bleed, the frontman roared, swinging his blade for the kill. But right as the steel flashed, Hyunwoo effortlessly vaulted into the air. Enough! Doko's voice thundered out of the cave. I told you idiots to stand guard. What the hell? The attacker froze, whipping his head around as the Alliance heavyweights marched out of the shadows. Sima Chol leaned in, practically vibrating with Jung Gija's ultimate stash. Doko cut him off, his face grim. We're done here. Pack it up, we roll out immediately. The troops scrambled to fall in line. The two thugs backed off, sneering. Consider yourself incredibly lucky, punk. Seolian instantly rushed to his side. Are you hurt? Hyunwoo just tilted his head, utterly confused by the panic in her voice. She let out a massive sigh of relief. Thank God. You really scared me for a second. Oh wait, we literally haven't even introduced ourselves. I'm Seolian, she said, beaming. He kept it totally brief. Hyunwoo, I like it. Sounds badass, she chirped. All right, come on. We gotta catch up with the convoy. And just like that, the Miram Alliance's chaotic hunt for Jung Gija's fabled superweapon officially wrapped up. Well, for now anyway. Fast forward a bit, and the crew rolled into the bustling streets of Hubei province. The gossip was already spreading like absolute wildfire. The Alliance bagged the ultimate prize. With Jung Gija's secret arsenal in their hands, total world domination felt like an absolute guarantee. Even the random dudes chilling in the local taverns wouldn't shut up about it. Was it a magic sword? A super technique? Who the hell actually knew? The brass had immediately locked down all the intel, wrapping the truth in red tape. Unsurprisingly, the hype train just kept accelerating, spinning crazy rumors across the continent. Cut to the Miram Alliance headquarters. Wham! Doko viciously slammed his fist into the mahogany desk. This is a total freaking disaster, he roared. Even if we went out there and literally swore on our lives that the weapon is a myth, not a single soul would buy it. The room was packed with the highest-ranking elders, totally silent, until one... Do you genuinely think ignoring this will fix anything, sir? The fake news has already infected Wuhan, and is actively poisoning all of Hubei. Because the brutal truth, the only thing they hauled out of that cursed cave was a dusty wooden box, left behind by the legend himself, and inside, just a single solitary letter. Jung Gija. John squinted at the text. What exactly does this say? A blood demon? The author claimed that this ancient evil was about to drag the entire Miram world into absolute hell. And to stop the apocalypse, he apparently recruited hundreds of disciples. He planned to train them, weaponize their chi, and crush the demon. But here's the catch. To keep these elite fighters on a leash, he needed the yin-yang parasite, locked right inside this sketchy box. It was the only way to ruin the blood demon's master plan. Slowly, they popped the lid open, and an intense, suffocating aura instantly flooded the room. Crazy part, not a single soul in the martial arts realm had ever heard a whisper about this. Zip. Zero. Nothing. Plus, they scoured the cave, and there wasn't a single footprint from these so-called hundreds of disciples mentioned in the... Who in their right mind would buy this? The elder raised an eyebrow, wondering out loud if this scroll was just the psychotic rambling of an absolute lunatic. Jeon shook his head. Nah, I don't buy it. He suspected a massive invisible hand was pulling the strings in the shadows. Right on cue, Chong Chong, chimed in, asking if the alliance leader himself was acting sus. Well, for starters, Jian explained, I'm betting the Green Forest bandits couldn't care less about Gija's secret weapon. Their real endgame, a full-blown assault on the Murim alliance. Think about it. When they circled back to the battlefield, the area was wiped completely. A mountain of fresh corpses literally vanished into thin air. That's your proof right there. On top of that, wild rumors are currently spreading through the streets, snowballing out of control. The whole setup screams calculated trap. Someone is aggressively shifting the entire martial arts world's radar straight onto the alliance. But who has that kind of juice? First red flag, the clan patriarch who originally handed over the map. He's undeniably sus. Then again, the old man doesn't really fit the mastermind profile. The real threat, probably a high-level mole hiding deep inside his ranks. With the stakes this ridiculously high, they desperately needed a shadow to stalk the Zhou clan. Because even if the clan was innocent, some backstabbing traitor was definitely using them as pawns. Fast forward a bit, and the escort convoy finally rolls back into the massive Zhou clan estate. They made it back in one piece, and Hyunwoo gazed up at the sprawling mega mansion. So this is where the rich girl lived. Sima Chol announced he had a mandatory meeting with the big boss, and ordered Hyunwoo to head down to the escort agency's barracks. Hearing this, Seryeon intervened. She insisted on personally handing him the new scabbard before he left. Hyunwoo just sighed, mentally noting how these outsiders were so ridiculously obsessed with flashy sword covers. Seryeon looked down, admitting that no ordinary metal on Earth could lock away his blade's insane, bloodthirsty aura. The sheer pressure radiating from it just blasted her custom scabbard into a million pieces. Hyunwoo deadpanned, telling her what he knew all along. His weapon didn't need a cage. I'm so sorry, she whispered, regretting her arrogant promise to forge it. Hyunwoo flinched. The apology caught him totally off guard, instantly ripping open a dark memory. He remembered his dying comrade choking out those exact same words, bleeding out in his arms. His friend was literally bleeding to death on the dirt. So why the hell was he the one saying sorry? What is even the point of an apology? Hyunwoo's eyes turned ice cold. He ordered Seryeon to never apologize to him again. He absolutely refused to hear that cursed word one more time. Seryeon stood there totally stunned, quietly nodding that she understood. But right then, Sima Chol barked at him to get moving right now. Hyunwoo spun on his heel and ditched her without a second glance. Seryeon was completely lost. Did she seriously just ruin everything? Cut to the bustling escort agency. Sima Chol started barking orders, telling Hyunwoo to watch his step and make sure he didn't drop the precious cargo. Standing there, Hyunwoo literally looked like a bottom-tier grunt, just a random sweatshop lackey lugging boxes around. Sima Chol hollered at his buddy across the yard, announcing he brought fresh meat, a brand new porter, ready to be broken in and trained. A towering, absolutely shredded dude turned around with a cocky grin. A greenhorn, huh? Say less, boss. I'll make a man out of him. Sima Chol sensed the heavy sarcasm, but brushed it off. What's the worst that could happen, right? He slapped Hyunwoo on the shoulder, wishing him good luck with boot camp. Hyunwoo gave him zero reaction. Sima Chol just chucked a peace sign and bounced. Chung-ho cracked his knuckles with a wicked smirk. Look, the big boss might have hand-delivered you, but I don't play favorites. Every rookie needs a little attitude adjustment. Got a problem with that? The veteran porters in the yard didn't even bat an eye. It was just business as usual under the head grunt. Chung-ho demanded his name. Hyunwoo deadpanned his answer. Chung-ho scowled, instantly ticked off by the kid's glaring lack of respect. Hyunwoo just blinked casually, roasting the guy's stubby arms, an absolutely laughable top-heavy build. Chung-ho's brain short-circuited. He erupted. The hell did you just say to me? You want to catch hands on day one? Hyunwoo just stared back, genuinely puzzled. Was this meathead actually trying to throw down? Should he just gut him right here? Chung-ho's veins bulged when he spotted the hilt resting on the kid's hip. Are you out of your damn mind? Hand it over, punk. Hyunwoo firmly gripped his hilt, stating flatly that his blade wasn't going anywhere. The vibe shifted from bullying to a lethal standoff in half a second. Chung-ho froze, totally paralyzed, suddenly pouring off this quiet rookie. All he could he abruptly spun on his heel, tossing out a lame excuse that it was getting way too late and calling it a night. Hyunwoo instantly caught on to just how many greedy eyes were glued to that blade. Meanwhile, the bystanders started whispering. They totally roasted Chungil, mocking how he always talked a big game, but was shaking in his boots over a rookie. And honestly, karma. Catching their whispers, Chungil whipped around his face flushed with rage as he snapped, demanding to know what the heck they were staring at. Didn't they have a curfew to catch? The guys flinched at his sudden outburst and frantically muttered that they really should head out. So they started packing up. They had busted their backs all day and desperately needed some shut-eye. As Hyunwoo scanned the area, Chungil barked at him to follow, pointing toward their shared dorm. In his mind, the salty veteran seethed, completely convinced that without that overpowered sword, he could have crushed the kid with a single strike. He swore he would make him pay for this massive humiliation. Later, the crew crashed side by side in the barracks. Chungil bolted upright in the dead of night, frustrated that he couldn't just sleep it off. But the second he moved, bam! A brutal strike smashed directly into his jaw, as something rock-solid blocked his path. Dazed, he frantically. Turns out, it was Hyunwoo's outstretched leg. Chungil shrieked, demanding to know why the kid wasn't sleeping. Yet Hyunwoo's eyes were sealed perfectly shut. Mind blown, he realized this absolute madman was literally sleeping while standing up. Panicking, Chungil lunged for his weapon, instantly snapping Hyunwoo wide awake. Chungil froze on instinct. It was only a split second, but pure, unfiltered terror completely paralyzed him. Before he could blink, Hyunwoo snatched the blade right. It was the terrifying gap between a helpless herbivore and an apex predator. Chungil's brain short-circuited as his entire life flashed before his eyes. He begged, swearing it was all a giant pleading for his life. He collapsed into a pathetic heap on the floor. Truth is, Hyunwoo was just passively channeling his internal energy as an automatic defense mechanism, which is exactly why he sleeps standing upright. It's a hardcore habit he picked up. Surviving endless nightmare days inside that deadly cave hardwired him to stay on extreme high alert 24/7, even during casual breaks like lunch or quick naps. That intense paranoia birthed his bizarre routine of sleeping on his feet while circulating his aura. Fast forward a bit, and a brand new morning finally broke. Hyunwoo snapped out of his standing slumber, spotted a traumatized Chungil sprawled nearby, and casually called his name. The guy flinched violently, stammering, asking if he needed something. Then, without missing a beat, he sprinted away like a total coward. Hyunwoo stood there super confused. Like his name was Chungil, right? The rest of the crew started dragging themselves out of bed, groaning about their massive workload. Hyunwoo tilted his head, asking what. Once outside, they were hit with a literal mountain of crates waiting to be unboxed. Without a second thought, Hyunwoo launched himself into the air, busting them open as he parkoured all the way to the peak, stacking the heavy cargo with terrifying speed and flawless precision. So this was the gig. Honestly, it felt like a total walk in the park, just basic loader duties. The workers huddled below stared up in absolute disbelief. Yeah, sure, something like that. Peering down, Hyunwoo casually asked if he should just solo the rest of the pile. They frantically yelled yes, begging him to be careful up there. Afterward, the crew gossiped, stressing over how some overpowered rookie from the countryside was totally going to put them out of a job at this crazy rate. Right then, Soleon gracefully strolled over, catching the tail end of their panicked chatter. They respectfully asked Miss Soleon what brought someone of her status down there. Figuring they were heading to lunch, she admitted she just couldn't stay away, because hearing his previous words had seriously weighed on her heart. Like, what did he even mean about not apologizing? She knew she was acting a bit weird, completely stunned that pure, burning curiosity had literally kept her tossing and turning all night, dragging her right back to him. The moment their eyes locked, Seolyang offered a soft greeting, suddenly realizing she had casually dropped his first name, without even thinking. He smoothly shifted the topic, mentioning his new gig as a manual loader. Surprised, Seolyang blinked, asking, "Wait, really?" She desperately hoped the grueling labor wasn't too much for him. Trying to dig deeper, she asked what he loved or hated about the vibe, immediately regretting her clumsy question. With a calm voice, he confessed that he loved absolute peace, totally hated unnecessary drama, and absolutely despised hearing apologies from his actual friends. Seolyang's heart skipped a beat, touched that he actually saw her as a genuine friend. Smiling warmly, she promised she'd do her best never to apologize. Right on cue to ruin the moment, Colin aggressively galloped up on his warhorse, loudly declaring what an insane coincidence this was. Flirting effortlessly, he hyped up her beauty, claiming she looked even more stunning than their last meetup. "Lady Seolyang, Slightly annoyed, she fired back asking if Warrior Colin didn't have some serious Miram business to handle. Why was he crashing their space? With a cocky grin, Colin bragged that he had just rolled into town on an official high-stakes mission from the Miram Alliance. The higher-ups ruled that the Birch escort desperately needed elite backup. Meanwhile, standing in massive contrast to the chill, peaceful life Hyunwoo craved, the brutal martial arts underworld was gearing up to plunge headfirst into an absolute bloodbath. 30 elite fighters from the legendary Heavenly Guardian squad had just been brutally wiped off the map. A terrified survivor groveled on the floor, begging for mercy because they couldn't track down the Phantom Killer. Keep in mind, this elite Guardian squad was cracked enough to totally steamroll the Alliance's Black Tortoise division, yet someone had just soloed their entire roster. Countless warriors were violently ripped into the air by terrifying twisted magic, getting absolutely shredded into a bloody mist. And the craziest part, it was all the work of a single monster, Sojongja. This psycho had successfully engineered 100 of these unnatural freaks, but honestly, could they even survive a clash with the legendary Blood Demon? Boiling with absolute rage, the Alliance leader commanded a massive lockdown, demanding background checks on every single soul tied to the Miram Alliance. He swore on his life to hunt down the monster who totally massacred his prized Guardian squad. As a brand new day broke, Seoyoung stared toward the horizon, her eyes burning with fierce determination. Chulin couldn't take his eyes off her. Honestly, she looked so drop-dead gorgeous it practically knocked the wind right out of him every single time. But what seriously pissed him off was this random dude. Like, why was he constantly hovering around Lady Sol Yang? Hyunwoo just stood there, deadpan, while Chulin let out a mocking snort. I mean, a glorified baggage boy carrying a blade. Total joke. The kid had absolutely no business holding a weapon he clearly... Meanwhile, Sol Yang clocked the situation. The Dragon Ascension squad had just rolled up repping the legendary Miram Alliance. If things went south right now, they would be in some serious hot water, she warned him. But Hyunwoo was completely zoning out. Chulin practically choked on his own spit. Wait, were these two already on a first-name basis? Miran, his little sister, totally called him out. She teased that he only rushed this Alliance mission so damn fast, just to simp over his crush. Right then, a beefy escort guard stomped up, glaring down at our boy. "You Hyunwoo," he barked. Hyunwoo didn't even... Seol Yang looked totally lost, while the incoming guard smirked, noticing the high-class lady standing right next to the scrub. The guard introduced himself as Hyunbae. He announced he was sent straight from HQ to break in the new porter for their upcoming escort run. Seol Yang frowned. "Hold up. He literally just got hired and you are throwing him into field missions already." Chulin just sneered. "Hey, grunt work is grunt work, hauling cargo across the map." In Chulin's mind, this was an absolute win. It was the perfect excuse to finally make his move on Seol Yang, without this weirdo third-wheeling them. Hyunwoo tilted his head, clueless as ever. Escort mission. He had zero clue what that meant, but he gripped his hilt tighter. No way was he surrendering his blade. Hyunbae scoffed. "Your sword? Whatever, kid. Just shut up." The disrespect was instant and loud. Chulin piled on, snapping at Hyunwoo to hurry the hell up, since his superior was actively waiting. "You want to get sacked on day one?" Chulin taunted. Moran just shook her head silently, laughing at the massive male egos. Even the mighty deputy leader was acting like a petty middle schooler. But Hyunwoo, the guy was completely unfazed. Their toxic trash talk bounced right off him. Maybe that sword wasn't just a shiny prop after all. Watching him walk away, Sol Yang called out, genuinely worried he had gotten his feelings hurt, and was ditching them. The guards smirked, assuming the kid was just another talentless nobody running off. But Hyunwoo casually muttered that he was just following orders. When Seol Yang pressed him, he gave a dead-honest shrug. "I kinda need this job, so I gotta follow him." She softly called out his name, watching his retreating back with a worried gaze. Our oblivious king didn't even glance back. A while ago, boss Sima Chol had mentioned throwing him to the wolves to learn the ropes of hauling freight. The secret mandate. Keep the weird mountain boy on a tight leash during the trip. Honestly, the higher-ups just wanted to sideline him as fast as possible, specifically before he got too cozy with Lady Sol Yang. Flashback to Hyunbae complaining, "Why is the boss babying this guy? He is a grown man, for crying out loud." Boss Sima Chol just gave a cryptic sigh. "Trust me, once you meet the kid you will totally get it." Cut back to the present. Hyunbei tried to overlook the kid's totally blunt, zero-filter vibe. He was a mountain hermit after all. Still, a baggage boy flexing a blade was weird. So, Hyunwoo stared blankly. I practiced the art of the three-energy sword. Hyunbei chuckled, assuming the newbie was just desperately trying to climb the ranks. Ah, the three-energy sword. Literally the most basic beginner tutorial in all of martial arts. Hate to break it to you, kid, but out here in the real world, we use stuff that actually kills. With a sharp metallic ring, Hyunbei drew his blade. Hyunwoo's muscles instantly coiled tight. When Hyunbei cockily demanded a demonstration, our boy tilted his head, genuinely confused. Wait, are you saying you want to fight to the death? Hyunbei nearly choked. Bro, what? No, who said anything about killing? I am just offering a friendly sparring match to test your specs. That logic completely short-circuited Hyunwoo's brain. Why fight when he was so obviously miles stronger than this guy? Hyunbei's jaw dropped. The absolute audacity. Hyunbei had been sweating blood in the dojo his entire life, while this scrub looked like he just unwrapped his first toy sword. Still, the veteran grinned. He decided to humble the kid, to show him what real power looked like. Meanwhile, Hyunwoo stretched out his hand, mumbling to himself about having to seriously die. Hyunbei glared, totally baffled by the weird stance. Hyunwoo just sighed. Honestly, this is my first time ever trying not to instantly execute my opponent. I have to do the mental math so you survive. Hyunbei just stood there, completely flabbergasted by the absolute disrespect. Finally, Hyunwoo nodded. Okay, calculations done. I won't accidentally kill you. Hyunbei ground his teeth. Ah, so that is why the boss warned me about you. Bring it on, psycho. He exploded forward, charging right at Hyunwoo. But our overpowered main character was completely chill, visualizing the exact trajectory. To keep this dude breathing, he just had to purposely miss. In a fraction of a second, Hyunwoo unleashed his blade, lunging at the veteran with terrifying speed. Boom! A blinding, apocalyptic pillar of pure energy violently ripped through the sky between them. Hyunbei let out a pathetic yelp, suddenly realizing he had severely messed with the wrong guy. The sheer shockwave ragdolled him backwards through the dirt. Seriously, the agency needed to run intense background checks. When the veteran finally blinked his eyes open, he was flat on his back, staring at the clouds. Hyunwoo peeked over him, looking totally innocent. Oops, did that hurt? Hyunbei gasped for air, absolutely trembling. What the hell kind of godly technique was that? Hyunwoo just shrugged. I told you, basic 3-energy sword. That move is called the heavenly. Hyunbei groggily pushed himself up, still shivering. Bro, there is absolutely no way that was just the basic 3-energy sword. Heavenly Storm. The name was insanely accurate because he felt like he just took a lightning bolt straight to the face. He never in a million years expected this random baggage. Did Boss Sima Chul actually know he was hiding a literal monster? Hyunwoo just blankly restated the obvious. Like I said, I am way stronger than you. Hyunbei just sat there, completely broken. Hyunbei was totally shook. This guy packed the terrifying raw power of an absolute grandmaster. He'd definitely have to brief the boss about this anomaly. But right now, priority number 1 was teaching this wild man some basic social survival skills, so he wouldn't accidentally wipe out a town with his insane martial arts. Hyunbei explained that since he'd witnessed those devastating moves firsthand, he was going to show him the ropes of society holding out his hand. Hyunwoo flashed a pure grin, and Hyunbei coached him that in moments like these, you reach out and pull your bro up. Catching on, Hyunwoo firmly grabbed his hand, and just like that, the feral powerhouse officially crashed at Hyunbei's place. Hyunbei was absolutely baffled, catching him snoozing straight up on his feet, wondering if this dude was even human. Slowly, Hyunwoo started soaking up how the real world actually functioned, finally stepping out of his isolated bubble. But the guy would literally strip down in broad daylight, leaving Hyunbei screeching at him to keep his clothes on in public. Hyunwoo would just stand there, totally mortified and blushing. Eventually, he scored a gig hauling heavy cargo under Hyunbei's strict supervision, and gradually started breaking out of his shell. Although Hyunbei still had to scream that dropping his pants in the streets was a massive, illegal no-go. Lurking in the shadows, Moran tracked their every single move. Her mind flashed back to Doko's intense briefing. Shadow the Cho clan patriarch 24/7. They had bowed in absolute respect, totally thrown off, when Doko dropped a massive bombshell. If that patriarch had any shady underground ties to the Green Forest thugs who ambushed them, they needed rock-solid proof. "Do I make myself clear?" he had barked. Moran had confidently snapped back. "Yes, sir. We carry out the Alliance leader's absolute will." Snapping back to reality, she thought this place seemed totally normal, except for the naked weirdo. But then, she caught Cho Yun staring and scoffed at her bizarre taste in men. Cho Yun was practically drooling over Hyunwoo, blushing super hard, whispering that he finally looked like a legit, rugged member of their escort crew. Fast forward a bit. The sun crept up on a brand new day, and Sima Cho gave his crew a stern reality check. He reminded his right-hand man that their chief Ma Yuk was out handling a high-stakes op, and making it back alive was the only acceptable option. The subordinate pounded his chest. "Relax, boss. On the agency's name we swear we're coming home in one piece," Sima Cho roared back. "All right, form up and stay sharp. This delivery run starts right freaking now." His squad scrambled into formation, rushing fiercely out the gates. From a distance, Cho Yun's eyes were totally glued to Hyunwoo. For our naive hero, this was the exact moment his actual life kicked off, diving headfirst into his very first mission. Cut back to a few days ago at the Cho clan's main fortress. Cho-Lin offered a deep, respectful bow, announcing they were the Mirim Alliance's elite Rising Dragon squad, demanding a formal sit-down with the head of the Cho family. Ilryom gestured for his guards to let them through, warmly sending his regards to the Alliance boss. Striding over to the massive dining table, he pulled back a chair, inviting his heavy-hitting guests to take a load off. As they settled in, his eyes locked on Cho-Lin. "Ah, so you're the fabled Dragonblade, one half of the squad's legendary twin dragons." Cho-Lin gave a slick, confident introduction, before Ilryom's gaze shifted to Namgung Jin. "Which makes you the infamous dragon sword." Namgung smirked, clearly eating up the high praise. He smoothly introduced himself. Right after stepping into the spotlight, Moran dropped her name, making sure to flex that she was the Dragonblade's little sister. Ilryom's gears started turning. The Peng family. They're the absolute powerhouses of Hebei. Plus, this girl is gorgeous and carries herself with total class. She'd be the ultimate catch for my boy Cho-In. Flashing a warm smile, he suggested that during their stay, they should definitely spar and trade combat secrets with his own kids to build some solid camaraderie. "Oh yeah," he schemed internally. "When hot-blooded youths start hanging out every single day, sparks are bound to fly. This setup is absolute perfection." The boys hyped him up loudly, thanking him for the VIP treatment, praising the great patriarch of the Cho clan. As the drinks started flowing, Moran's mind drifted back to Doko's chilling warning. "Rising Dragon Squad, listen the hell up. You're infiltrating the Cho estate because I need hard facts. I need to know if that bloodbath in Hengshan with the Green Forest bandits traces back to the Cho patriarch himself. Dig up the dirt and do not lose focus." Later on, as the crew stepped out for some fresh air, Moran let out a massive, frustrated sigh. She completely roasted Cho-Lin, snapping that they were on a covert op, yet he was busy making hard eyes at the patriarch's daughter. She'd been creeping on them for days, and the girl hadn't given him a single ounce of attention. Her eyes were totally glued to that freakish cargo loader. But Cho-Lin just smirked, shooting her a confident look, telling her to chill out. Word on the street was that the weirdo was heading out on a delivery run and would be a ghost for a couple of months. That was more than enough time for him to swoop in and steal Cho-Yun's heart before they had to wrap up their real mission. Cut to their massive send-off feast. Our guy Hyunwoo was completely dialed, in his soul utterly captivated by the massive spread in front. Shoving a juicy chunk of meat into his mouth, his eyes lit up as he declared cooked food was literally the greatest thing on earth. After surviving in a grimy cave, a hot seasoned meal was an absolute mind-blowing luxury. Right then, Hunbei dropped into the seat across from him. Chuckling, he teased that he'd never seen a dude treat a basic dinner like some kind of holy religious ritual. He patted his back, telling him to stuff his face. Having a full tank would definitely make dodging danger on the road a whole lot easier. His final destination, Sichuan province. We're talking the absolute stronghold of the legendary Tang clan. This time around, the job offer dropped straight from the top-tier elites of the martial arts world. The absolute big bosses, the Sichuan Tang clan itself. Right on cue, two heavy-hitting elders Tang Hongwan and Tang Chulji rolled through. Hyunpei shot them a side-eye and whispered, "Dude on top of our usual mercs." The Tangs actually deployed their own elite hit squads. Whatever payload we're hauling, it's gotta be stupidly valuable. While our boy just minded his business and inhaled his food, Hong Wan hopped onto his stallion, trotted to the front, and let out a cocky little smirk. "What is that sweet aroma?" he muttered. Looking highly annoyed, he literally just flicked his finger at a passing butterfly. Boom! A burst of pure energy instantly vaporized. Suddenly his eyes snapped sideways, caught completely off guard. Cho-gi caught the flinch. "Everything good, Elder." He narrowed his eyes. "One of these low-level grunts is leaking some seriously abnormal aura." "But who?" His gaze locked onto our MC. But before things could get sticky, Chief Escort Ma Hyuk charged to the front line. He announced they were fully locked and loaded, telling the VIPs to chill. Hongwan blinked. Wait, was that insane pressure just coming from Ma Hyuk? Brushing it off, the elder stared down the chief. "We've got a massive trek ahead. Get this convoy moving." Ma Hyuk barked out a massive, "Yes, sir," while sweating bullets internally. Damn, has he always been this terrifyingly strong? Spinning his horse around, Ma Hyuk roared at the crew. "Listen up, mercs and mules. Wrap up your grub and pay attention. The Henan Bureau lives and dies by speed. A standard trip to Sichuan. That's 4 months. We're crushing it in 1.5. The whole squad roared in agreement. Hyun Pei leaned over to our boy, dropping a warning. "Look, man, if you slack off and piss off the chief, you'll get booted from the guild on the spot. Whatever you do, do not fall behind." Ma Hyuk cracked the whip, screaming to roll out. Meanwhile, the MC just deadpanned. Lag behind. "Bro, why is he acting like this is a marathon?" The convoy finally hit the dirt. Look rolling with Ma Hyuk is legendary for being absolute hell, and here's why. First off, the guy is a total control freak. 0 shortcuts allowed. But the absolute worst part, it's not just the jacked up martial artists who have to sprint. The literal baggage boys are forced to match the speed of galloping horses. Right as the squad was gasping for air, Hyun Pei pulled up beside our MC, wheezing. "Hyun Woo, just hang in there, man. Break time is coming up." Plot twist. To Hyun Woo, this hardcore sprint felt literally like a Sunday stroll. Fast forward a bit, the sun totally dipped out. Ma Hyuk glared back at an exhausted Hyun Pei. "Hey, you even conscious right now?" Our MC just stood casually in the background, while Hyun Pei awkwardly scratched his neck. "Haha, nope, dude's literally sleepwalking out here." Crushing a standard 4-day trek in record time, the crew finally hit Mount Pingding. But as soon as they fired the engines back up, Cho-gi yanked his reins and screamed. "Hold up." Out of nowhere, a massive spear ripped through the air, aimed dead at his skull. But Ma Hyuk wasn't having it. He charged forward, flashing his blade, slicing the projectile clean in half. "Who the hell's out there?" he roared. A shadowy figure swaggered out. "Bro, we should be asking you that." Flashing a twisted grin, the guy lazily tossed his weapon over his shoulder. "You just trespassed into Green Forest territory, morons. Dump the loot and start running if you want to keep breathing." Watching from the back, Elder Hong Wan scoffed. "Humph, just low-level street rats. Relax, let's just enjoy the show." Cho-gi gave a quick nod. "Understood, Elder." Down in the trenches, Hyun Pei nudged our MC chill out Hyun Woo. "We toss them some coin, they bounce. Nothing to sweat." The MC just stared. "Wait, are these the same bums from last time? Trying to keep the peace." Ma Hyuk chucked a string of copper coins their way. "Take the toll and back off," he barked. But the bandit leader, he just whipped out his blade and slashed the cash right down the middle. "Keep your pocket change, old man. I want the entire payload." Ditch the wagons and scramble. With a massive leap, the thug launched himself straight at the crew. Hyun Pei panicked. "Oh crap, we're actually throwing down." Our MC just sighed. This absolute clown really wants to die today. Ma Hyuk instantly braced his heavy blade, tanking the massive strike. But the bandit wildly spun in midair, planting a brutal kick square into the chief's chest. The impact launched Ma Hyuk violently off his horse, sending him crashing into the dirt. The thug threw his head back, cackling like a maniac. "Did you scrubs really think your trash-tier Henan guild stood a chance? Boys, what are you waiting for? Light 'em up. Wipe them out." In a heartbeat, his entire crew swarmed forward, roaring in absolute agreement. Panic plastered across his face. Chongil stammered. "What the hell do we do against an entire mob of these thugs?" Hong Wan's eyes narrowed as he spat. "These fools aren't your average Green Forest punks. Who's pulling the strings here?" The bandit boss barked back, asking if he thought they were just petty crooks. "We're the elite Green Forest squad. Lunging forward, he snarled that dying by his blade was a massive "You fossil." But Hong Wan locked his weapon on him, snapping back, "Too bad. If you were just low-level thugs, I might have let you slide." Suddenly a needle pinned itself deep into the tree behind him, leaving the bandit completely shook. "No way. How does a tiny needle pack that kind of punch?" As the words left his mouth, he stared down at the massive, gaping hole blasted straight through his torso. His goons stood frozen, in total shock, while Hong Wan prepped another volley of needles, roaring about how they had the sheer nerve to hijack the Tang clan's stash. "Absolute trash like you isn't even worth staining my hands," he spat, unleashing a barrage of needles that shredded right into his enemies. Right then the Dread Shadow clan stepped out from the darkness. Their point man smirked, stating that he knew the bandits were definitely too weak, since Elder Hong Wan of the Sichuan Tang clan was crashing the party himself. They had to go all out. The absolute order from the Dread Shadow boss was loud and clear: 0 survivors. Catching Chongil's eye, Hong Wan ordered them to brace themselves, since these guys were built different. Chongil gave a grim nod. He made it crystal clear that even if the entire escort agency got wiped, the payload had to reach the Sichuan Tang clan. These guys were his hand-picked elites. Do or die, that cargo had to make it. A split second later, the enemy vanguard completely rushed them, screaming to slaughter everyone. Pure chaos erupted, steel clashing and sparks flying in every direction. Dead center in the absolute bloodbath, the MC stood unfazed, while voices screamed, "Hold the line." In a flash, one of the porters took a brutal hit. Mayak clenched his jaw, realizing their hired muscle was getting totally outclassed. These guys were literal pro-martial artists. The Sichuan Tang clan packed more heat, but playing defense wasn't their vibe. Instantly, an attacker slashed Himpei. The protagonist caught the warrior launching off the ground, winding up to finish Himpei off. Right then, a flashback hit the MC, remembering how Himpei grinned, offering, "If this grub is hitting the spot, wouldn't you want to share?" Channeling insane energy into his blade, he slashed with brutal force, unleashing an absolutely cracked wave of raw lightning. Himpei spun around totally clueless, while the rest of the crew freaked out over the blast. Did lightning just strike? Then Himpei shrieked in absolute awe. "Yin Wu, was that your heavenly storm? Bro, hurry up and carry the rest of the team," Yin Wu just fired back. "Why, I only pulled you out of the fire because you had my back earlier." Himpei lost it, shouting, "What do you mean, why? We're all dragging this same payload, I'm literally begging you." Right then, an enemy blade sank deep into Mayek's gut, dropping Chongil to his knees. Throwing his hands up, he screamed that they were just baggage carriers, totally zero combat NPCs. The MC let out a heavy sigh, deadpanning that he had no clue what the guy was yapping about. "But if you're gonna beg, sure." Frowning, he blitzed forward at breakneck speed. The bloodbath raged on, an enemy screaming, "Your cheap tricks are useless against us, Hong Wan. Just drop the cargo and surrender. It's not too late. Run for it if you want to keep breathing." In the blink of an eye, the protagonist teleported right behind the loudmouth. Hong Wan was absolutely stunned. What the heck just ghosted past him? He was the only one who barely processed the blur. Then the protagonist coldly dropped. That's enough. A monstrous surge of electric energy detonated around him, forcing everyone to stare in awe. Meanwhile, Uman Hio gazed up at the sky, wondering, did the entire Dread Shadow clan seriously just get packed up? He had been absolutely certain that squad was more than enough to body the escort agency, and that old fossil from the Tang clan right. She was the undisputed boss of the Uman clan's Dread Shadow division. Tucking a stray hair behind her ear, Yanza bowed behind her, desperately begging for forgiveness. Turns out, there was a hidden powerhouse among the escorts, totally off the radar. He promised to track down his identity and report back, but she just waved it off. "Chill, I'll handle this myself." He gasped. "You're deploying personally." She flashed a wicked smirk, hand on her chest, cooing, "Oh, absolutely. I need to check out this absolute unit with my own eyes." While the Uman clan wasn't officially top 5, they flexed just as hard. Controlling 1/3 of the entire global market, they spread their massive influence through insane financial leverage. Behind closed doors, the Uman clan had been pulling inside intel straight from the Sichuan Tang clan via their moles. Moon Huang leaned against the railing, his eyes narrowing. "Did we figure out what they're keeping under wraps?" A shadowy underling behind him nodded. Yeah, boss. The Sichuan Tang family teamed up with the Hua clan. They actually pulled it off. They crafted the legendary Thunder Bombs. Right now, the Henan Escort Bureau is hauling 5 massive wagons of this explosive payload straight to the Sichuan headquarters. Huang smirked, glancing over his shoulder. Are you telling me the Tang family actually cracked the recipe? The same blueprint that vanished centuries ago with the Thunder faction. As the ruthless patriarch of the Uman clan, this news was pure gold to him. He scoffed. Even with the Hua clan backing them up, there's no way those amateurs could forge something that destructive. The henchman quickly chimed in. Actually, sir, the Hua clan leader is a long-lost bloodline descendant of the Thunder faction. A sparrow fluttered down onto the railing. Huang fed it a handful of seeds, a sinister grin spreading across his face. So, the remnants of the Thunder faction brought back a weapon of mass destruction. 5 entire wagons. According to the ancient scrolls, that much firepower could obliterate multiple entire sects in the blink of an eye. We need that payload, and we need the formula. With a sickening crunch, his fist violently crushed the tiny bird. The subordinate swallowed hard. Well, the young miss caught wind of this. She already took the Dread Shadow Squad and went rogue to intercept them. Huang snapped, his rage flaring. Where exactly did she go? The trembling servant stammered. By now she's definitely hit Mount Pengding. Meanwhile, back at the bloodbath, thanks to Han Wu stepping up, the escort crew managed to wipe out the ambusher. But the cost was absolutely brutal. Almost their entire fighting force was wiped out. Surveying the wreckage, Cholgi muttered, "It's just us now. Captain Mayuk is clinging to life, and Hyunpei is the only guard left standing, plus a handful of traumatized porters." Looking around at the broken survivors, "We need to ditch this mountain and hire a backup agency," someone suggested. But Hong Wan shut it down immediately. "No way. We ride with this crew until the wheels fall off." Cholgi shot him a seriously pissed-off glare. "Are you kidding me? Why would we gamble this entire run when they're literally on death's door? We should just recruit some local muscle. Besides, with your celestial storm technique, we're basically untouchable." Hong Wan whipped his head around, completely dumbfounded. "Say what?" Cholgi jumped to his feet, totally hyped. "Uncle, did you finally master the Tang family's ultimate secret art, the celestial storm, bro? Huge congrats. But you could have at least dropped a hint." Hong Wan let out a heavy, exhausted sigh. "Yeah, even I barely caught what happened. You guys didn't see a damn thing. Because I wasn't the one who unleashed the celestial storm on those assassins." Cholgi froze, his jaw dropping. "Wait, what? If it wasn't you then, who the heck was it?" Hong Wan slowly locked eyes with our main boy. "Unless I'm losing my mind, it was that absolute unit of a porter right there. Han Wu." Hong Wan marched straight up to our MC and demanded to know which faction he trained under. Han Wu just blinked, looking totally lost. "Faction? The heck is that?" Hong Wan clarified. "The dojo where you learn to fight." Han Wu's mind flashed back. Gija never gave them a single lesson. That psycho just dumped them in a literal hellscape to rot. Every ounce of his insane strength came from pure survival instinct and endless bloody death matches. It was 100% his own grind. "Yeah, I don't have one of those," Han Wu stated bluntly. Hong Wan's eyes practically bugged out of his skull. "What are you even saying? No faction. Are you trying to tell me you just woke up with god-tier powers out of nowhere? And why the hell are you catching an attitude with a Tang family elder?" Sensing the crazy tension, Hyunpei sprinted over in an absolute panic. "Whoa, stop!" Hong Wan was fuming, ready to throw down with this disrespectful kid. But Hyunpei physically shoved himself between the two powerhouses. "Boss, please. My buddy here has been living completely off the grid in the wild. He's got zero social skills. I swear I'm trying to teach him how to act. Just let this slide." Hong Wan scowled, sizing Han Wu up. Is this kid just another arrogant punk who thinks he's the main character just because he packs a punch? But he had to swallow his pride for the sake of the mission. Plus, the kid's undeniably overpowered. And surprisingly, he actually takes orders from this low-level guard. "All right, fine. I can work with this." Hyunpei shot a desperate side-eye at Hanu. "Dude, seriously? If you're gonna keep talking smack to the VIPs, just zip it entirely." Watching their dynamic, a light bulb went off in Hong Wan's head. "You know," Hong Wan declared, "you're way tougher than you look." Hyunpei pointed at his own face, totally bewildered. "Wait, me? You're taking over as the lead guard. You're gonna carry Mayuk's torch and get this cargo to the finish line. He internally plotted. If I put this guy in charge, his overpowered bodyguard comes as a package deal. We get heavenly storm protection guaranteed. Hyunpei freaked out. Bro, what? Just then, the battered Captain Mayuk forced himself up, clutching his blood-soaked bandages. He's right, Hyunpei, Mayuk rasped, grimacing in agony. You're the last man standing. I need to fall back and grab reinforcements. You have to take command. Hyunpei swallowed his fear reality hitting him like a truck. He was right. Someone had to step. Bowing deeply, he screamed that he knew he wasn't the top dog here, but he was stepping up to lead the charge. He swore to drag this whole escort mission straight to Sichuan. Hearing this, Hong Wan hyped him up, roaring that they were totally locked in. Since the sun was already dipping, hitting the road was out of the question. They were crashing here tonight. Suddenly, Chilgi's jaw dropped as reality hit him. Wait, hold up. How is this even real? A random cargo grunt just flexed as an insane martial arts god, literally commanding the heavenly storm. So the Henan Escort Bureau locked back in, rolling out, with Hyunpei calling the shots. Stepping up as the boss, Hyunpei barked at the crew to finally get some sleep. Meanwhile, Miyuk was tearing up the dirt path, sprinting back to the bureau to drop the bomb about the ambush before things went south. Pushing his horse to the absolute limit, he panicked. Inside, Hunwoo might be OP as a loader, but if these ambushes kept spawning, the whole squad was cooked. He desperately needed to reach base camp to call in some heavy backup. But catching something in his peripheral vision, he snapped his head to the side. Grinding his teeth, he stressed out over the sketchy vibe. Who the hell was trailing his escort squad toward the bureau? A massive red flag told him to hit the gas. Out of absolutely nowhere, a jagged chain hook slammed right into his skull, violently ripping him straight out. Emerging from the shadows like literal ghosts, a terrifying hit squad. The infamous Blood Demon Assassin Corps swarmed out of the pitch-black woods. Smirking their alpha, declared that the rat had been officially deleted. Their next target, the massive Cho clan estate looming ahead. Cut to Il-hyun gripping a calligraphy brush at his desk. Exhaling a heavy, exhausted sigh, he muttered that the grind definitely wasn't stopping tonight. Chol slouched across from him, practically begging to pull the plug and chill out since he was dead tired. Without missing a beat, Il-hyun rejected him flat out. Procrastinate the hustle, and your drive dies with it, Il-hyun snapped. We wrap this up right now. Suddenly, black ink dripped onto the desk, and Il-hyun's face tightened. A creepy, spine-chilling vibe washed over him, setting off his internal alarms. Outside, total chaos erupted, as the elite guards were— "Are you insane? Who the hell are you?" a guard screamed. But before he could even blink, a brutal blade impaled him straight through the chest. The surviving guards shrieked in pure terror. "Ambush! Grab your steel! Brace yourselves!" Snapping up from his desk, Il-hyun's eyes darkened. He knew this was coming. Outside, a sinister assassin sneered, confirming they had breached the Cho clan's turf. "Wipe them all out. 0 survivors," the assassin commanded. As the killers pressed forward, Chol wildly snatched up his blades and roared. "You dare mess with the Cho clan," he raged. But instantly Bilyun panicked and yelled, "Headmaster, hold up!" He whipped around, screaming for the patriarch. "What's the situation?" Il-hyun fired back instantly on high. The bloodlust suffocating the air felt insanely twisted. Honestly, even if Il-hyun leaped into the bloodbath himself, this wasn't going to be an easy win. With the courtyard turning into a literal slaughterhouse, Il-hyun coldly realized he had a much bigger move to make right now. Seconds later, Chol smashed into the room, ripping the door open and screaming, "Emergency! I'm coming in hot!" So Young spun around, totally shook, asking what was wrong. Chol frantically screamed, "So Young, we gotta bounce right freaking now." He begged her to grab her gear so they could dip. Her guard went up instantly as she demanded, "What is happening? Where is my dad?" Out in the compound, it was a pure nightmare. Clan members were shrieking in agony, screaming for mercy as the brutal massacre raged on. Cutting through the screams, an assassin yelled out the brutal order. "Massacre every single soul tied to the escort bureau. Say less, they're dead," another killer roared back. Cut to So Young and her crew desperately galloping away from the manor on horseback. Peeking over her shoulder, she watched her home get swallowed by massive infernos, horrified that the flames were bleeding over into the Henan Escort Bureau. "Do not hit the brakes, So Young," Chol aggressively screamed over the chaos. "Keep moving." She wanted to fight back, desperate, because her dad was still trapped in the fire. but Chol shut her down. "Did you seriously forget who your dad is?" he hollered. "That's Il-hyun, the absolute strongest spearman and the literal boss of the Cho clan." Right on cue, Il-hyun gripped his spear and violently shattered the top floor wall. Exploding out of the burning building, Choel kept hyping him up. Nobody in the whole Shuchang zone can even touch him. Suddenly, the shadow assassins locked onto Il-hyun. "Oh, so this is the final boss of the Cho clan," one sneered. "We're taking his head as a trophy," the killers roared, vaulting upward for the kill just as Il-hyun dive-bombed straight into the clash. Chol screamed at her in frustration. "Are you blind? The Patriarch is tanking all the aggro, so you can survive." Cho-in, riding right next to them, backed him up. "Uncle is right. You gotta believe in your dad." Hearing that, So-young totally broke down, tears absolutely flooding her face. She desperately tried to argue, but Chol ordered them to stay off the radar and watch their six. His voice cracked as he muttered a painful apology. Locking eyes with Mirin, he desperately asked if the elite Rising Dragon troop could escort them to safety. Mirin just shook her head. "We're completely tied up," she confessed. "We have to report back to the Mirum Alliance." Chorin absolutely lost it hearing that. "Are you for real right now? Do you hear the garbage coming out of your mouth?" Glaring daggers at him, she snapped, "Did you seriously learn nothing after seeing how insanely cracked their martial arts are?" Word had to reach the Mirum Alliance, and fast. The man gave a grim nod, but Cho-lin's voice trembled as she warned, "They're definitely going to be right on our tails." Panic set in. What were their options? Cho-lin scowled, her mind racing. If backup wasn't coming, there was only one person who could pull them out of this mess. That absolute beast who soloed the entire Green Forest bandit crew, in Heng Shan the leader. Meanwhile, the man declared they'd have to figure out an alternate route. Whispering a quick prayer for their survival, he pivoted, locking his desperate gaze right onto Sol-young. He urged them to hustle. They absolutely had to catch up with the Sichuan escort squad. Sol-young's mind screamed in agreement that was their only shot. If they could just reach Hanwoo, he'd crush this problem in a heartbeat. "Just stay safe until then, Father," she prayed silently. With no time to waste, they hit the road. Back at the burning clan estate, the phantom assassins casually wiped the fresh blood from their blades. Il-hyun dropped to his knees in the wreckage. Gripping his spear tight, he squeezed one eye shut and growled, "Who the hell are you freaks? Why are you slaughtering the Cho clan?" The blood demon threw his head back, barking out a psychotic laugh. "You seriously want a history lesson before you kick the bucket?" Furious, Il-hyun demanded the psycho step out of the shadows. Pointing a terrifyingly long skeletal arm straight at him, the monster stepped forward. Il-hyun gasped, demanding to know how he was still breathing. "I tossed that name in the trash a long time ago," the demon sneered. Plopping down right in the middle of the smoking ruins, he let out a dark chuckle. Crazy to think that just yesterday, this giant pile of ash was the mighty Cho clan estate. He smirked, utterly impressed. His phantom assassins had but where were the survivors running off to? One of his shadowy lackeys reported they were actively hunting down the runaway Cho family members. Il-hyun was still mind-blown. Coughing up blood, he desperately demanded to know why a monster like the Blood Demon would bother wiping out the Cho clan. He understood the blood-shadow connection, but what was his beef with Gija? The demon scowled, explaining that he knew those two were sworn enemies, guys who literally threw their lives away for this rivalry. The demon admitted that yeah, he and Gija had a seriously twisted, unbreakable bond, an absolute blood tie that couldn't be snapped. Of course, now he was the last one standing. Right here was where Gija first vowed to train 100 disciples just to take him down, right on these very grounds of the Cho clan estate. So, didn't it make perfect sense to kick off the revenge tour right here? Step 1. Utterly nuke Gija's entire master plan. That was exactly why he couldn't let even a single drop of the Cho clan's bloodline survive this massacre. Meanwhile, on the run, Cho glanced back and panicked. Damn it, how did those creeps catch up so fast? Just a little further, they just needed to hold out a little longer. They were inches away from reaching the escort crew. Cho-in spurred his horse galloping wildly, as a terrifying pitch-black aura crept up right behind him. Cho screamed, "Cho-in, they're literally right on our tail. Don't you dare fall behind." Cho-in roared back that he'd catch up, no matter what. But his absolute top priority, shielding Sol-young. She whipped her head around in shock. What the hell was he planning? No way she wasn't about to let him play the hero. If this kept up, her whole crew was going to get wiped out, and it would be entirely her fault. Before the words even left her mouth, a brutal sickle tore straight through Cho-in's chest. Cho shrieked in pure horror as the violent strike yanked Cho-in right off his horse. Tears exploded from Sol-young's eyes as she reached out to him. "No!" she shrieked, her voice cracking. But the phantom assassins didn't even flinch, sprinting ruthlessly closer. One of the killers lunged right at Sol-young, violently swinging his blade and roaring, "Gotcha, you little brat." She desperately jerked her body to dodge. The sudden movement sent her horse crashing hard into the dirt, dragging her down with it. Cho-el stretched his hand toward her, a single tear cutting through the dust on his face. All he ever wanted was to keep her safe. Trembling in the dirt, a dark realization hit Sol-young. If these psychos had already caught up, did that mean her father was dead? No, she couldn't lose Cho-in and her dad. Looming over her, one of the phantom assassins scoffed, absolutely annoyed that they'd made him run this far. Honestly, he had to give props to their crazy survival instincts. With a twisted smirk, he aimed his energy-charged weapon right at Sol-young's face. Pulling his blade back for the final lethal strike, he sneered. "Game over, kid. You're completely out of road." Sol-young squeezed her eyes shut. Sobs racked her body as she screamed in her head. "I don't want to die. Please, somebody, anybody." She wailed out a desperate cry for backup. Out of absolutely nowhere, a massive surge of lightning blitzed past her, completely shattering the assassin's sword into pieces. Her jaw dropped as she stared through the smoke. Han Wu, standing like an absolute boss, he glared daggers at the assassins and casually replied, "I heard you yelling." Just minutes earlier, the escort crew had been trekking along as usual. Our MC was just minding his business in formation when Sol-young's desperate scream echoed in his mind. Catching that intense shift in his vibe, Kim Pyo asked, "Yo Han-woo, what's wrong?" Without missing a beat, Han-woo muttered that he'd be right. Flabbergasted, Kim Pyo yelled, "Wait, back where? Bro, where are you going?" But boom, he vanished in a flash. Kim Pyo was just left shouting at thin air. Our MC went full speed, blasting through the forest with tunnel vision. He knew without a single doubt that she was crying out for his help. Right at that terrifying moment, the phantom assassin had swung his sword down, smirking, "Sayonara, last little rat of the Cho clan." Sol-young was begging for her life. And that's exactly when our boy unleashed that insane lightning strike. The attacker's brain basically short-circuited. What? His blade was just gone. The rest of the phantom squad was totally stunned. "Who the hell is this guy?" they cursed. Bleeding out, Cho-el recognized him instantly. With his last bit of strength, he begged the MC to protect. Sobbing violently, she looked at the dying man and gasped, "Uncle." He whispered that keeping her safe was his final wish. Suddenly, one of the furious assassins roared out, "I don't give a crap who this punk is. One extra corpse makes zero difference. Shred him." The entire squad lunged forward for the kill. Unbothered, our MC gently placed a hand on Sol-young's shoulder and let a massive wave of pure energy explode from his body. She gasped, utterly awestruck. The second his palm rested on her hair, the crushing terror and pure exhaustion freezing her bones, instantly thawed like spring snow. Our MC softly told her to dry her eyes, promising this nightmare was almost done. But right behind his back, the shadow squad was already closing in. Without missing a beat, he whipped around, unleashing absolute havoc on anyone in striking distance. The hitmen, totally caught off guard. What even is this martial art? Nobody had witnessed a style this insane. Blinding pulses of lightning ripped through the air in every direction. Sol-young stared completely mesmerized. Almost 24 elite killers practically vaporized into ash. A desperate thought crossed her mind. If I wielded that kind of insane power, could I have shielded my family? The battlefield fell silent as our MC smoothly holstered his blade. Moments later, Sol-young dropped to her knees, pressing her palms into the bloody dirt. Choking back sobs, she whispered a vow to return. She promised her fallen family she would give them a proper resting place soon. Her gaze dropped as she desperately asked Hyun-woo, "What do I do now? How am I supposed to survive in this world without my dad? Without my brother? Alone?" The word echoed in his mind. He knew that feeling all too well, having clawed his way out of a literal hell all by himself just to reach. But she was the very first person to toss him a lifeline here. He owed her big time. Locking eyes with her, he firmly said, "You live. Live on your own terms," he added. Sol-young paused, genuinely questioning what her heart actually desired. Then a spark ignited. Suddenly, a firm grip caught her wrist. Before she could process it, our MC simply smirked and said, "In that case, let's move." He warned her to hold on tight. "Wait, what?" she gasped. But a split second later, he launched them straight off the earth. They blasted forward, tearing through the atmosphere with Sol Young securely in tow. Her mind raced. This is not just regular footwork. It felt like they were literally soaring, slicing straight through the clouds. Maybe that was why the howling wind managed to dry the lingering tears on her cheeks. Hyunwoo was basically gliding across the heavens, cradling her safely as they skyrocketed ahead. Strangely, this wild ride flooded her soul with an unspoken profound peace. This footwork, this level of mastery, Sol Young marveled internally. He made mid-air travel look like a casual park stroll. The guy was absolutely built different. People back down there just labeled him a strong martial artist. But this was on another level. Her elite uncle could not even scratch those assassins. Yet, breaking the silence, she asked how he got so overpowered. They were basically the exact same age after all. His voice went cold as he replied, "This is the result. When you spend an eternity dancing on the edge of death." Intrigued, she asked who exactly he had been fighting. "Monsters," he answered bluntly. "Wait, do you mean demons?" she pressed. "Something like that," he muttered. When she begged to hear the full story, a heavy silence fell. He just stared off into the horizon. He briefly debated dumping the truth about his personal hell. But to do that, he would have to explain the gruesome climb, scaling a literal mountain built from the 99 corpses of his closest comrades, all just to reach Gija, only to find out his ultimate target was already a ghost. He had been robbed of his ultimate revenge. Brushing it off, he simply sighed, "Maybe another time." Without stopping for a single breather, the duo finally touched down. The moment they landed in the camp, Hun Pyo's jaw practically hit the floor. "Lady Cho," he gasped in pure disbelief. She locked onto him and cried out his name. As Hun Pyo frantically asked how on earth she got there, Hyunwoo suddenly caught wind of a massive plot twist. Dead serious, Hun Pyo dropped the bomb. He was convinced Gija was not dead at all. Our MC's eyes narrowed. "Are you s—" The reality shifted as Hun Pyo fearfully asked, "Wait. The Cho family estate, and our entire escort headquarters, are they completely wiped out?" Panic instantly rippled through the cargo crew. "What the hell happens to us now?" one porter freaked out, while his buddy, "We are gonna have to scrounge up work somewhere else." Hearing their despair, Sol Young bravely faced the shaken crew. Bowing her head, she deeply apologized for dropping such devastating news mid-mission. But Hun Pyo gently raised a hand, stopping her right there. "You are the one hurting the most right now," he reassured her. But as he looked away, a heavy frown creased his face. He knew the squad's morale, already severely battered from the previous ambush, had completely flatlined after this bombshell. If they stayed in this funk, the cargo was doomed. They desperately needed a spark to break this dead end. Stepping up, he reminded the crew about the massive payout guaranteed at the finish line. "With that kind of cash, every single one of us can kickstart a dope new life," he shouted. "Hell, we might even have enough to rebuild the Henan escort agency from scratch. After all, we still have Lady Cho leading us." Their eyes locked, and a fierce new fire sparked in her chest. He is right. It is not game over yet. She still carried the weight of everyone flying the Cho family banner. By stepping up and owning that burden, maybe, and finally carve out bloody justice for her dad, her uncle, her brother, and every fallen member of her clan. Noting her burning resolve, our MC glanced her way. "So, we rolling out?" he casually checked. Hun Pyo firmly nodded back. "Yeah, we are finishing this run no matter what." Off to the side, Xiao Gi nudged Hong Wan, whispering, "Yo, is not that girl the actual daughter of the Cho clan's top boss?" Hong Wan just grunted, telling him to quit overthinking and keep his eyes locked on the payload. In his head, he admitted he panicked when their porter vanished. But honestly, as long as this insanely OP guy was backing the cargo, he could drag a literal tiger or a noblewoman along for the ride, and they would still be. A few beats later, they hit the trail again. Sprinting ahead, Sol Young couldn't stop replaying his words in her head. He'd been battling absolute monsters in some unheard-of wasteland for ages. She drew a total blank on the location. What kind of hell had this guy actually survived? Closing the gap, she called out, pressing him to spill the tea on what they were just whispering about. "Is Gija actually dead?" he pressed. "Basically," she shrugged. "Word on the street is he kicked the bucket 10 years ago." "Got it," he muttered. Inwardly, his mind raced. Wait, does that mean my shot at revenge is completely dead? And right then, Huimpei dropped a bomb. Honestly, I highly doubt the guy's actually dead. Heads whipped around in pure shock, and our MC demanded, "Wait, you're saying Gija is still breathing?" Huimpei narrowed his eyes. The whole story around his death is insanely sketchy. The math just ain't mathing. Usually crazy gossip starts from one specific source, but not this time. People just blindly bought into his death, like it was hard, cold fact. It feels super orchestrated, like somebody blasted it across the entire Murim world, purely to force the narrative that Gija was gone for good. Sol Young was totally floored. But who would even spread fake news like that, and why? Huimpei shook his head, admitting he didn't have all the facts. But honestly, it was probably a massive cover-up to completely drop off the grid. And Gija totally faked his own death. Her jaw literally dropped. Wait, he gaslit the entire world into thinking he was a ghost. Yeah, roughly 10 years back, the MC muttered. In a flash, Hong Wan threw his hand up, barking at the entire squad to freeze. Yansu was blocking their path, alongside a crew of his goons, calling out, "My bad for totally blocking the road." Hong Wan squinted, grumbling. "Looks like your rig completely busted a wheel." "Yeah," Yansu sighed. "It snapped out of nowhere. The thing is completely totaled, so we're gonna have to ditch the ride." He rubbed his neck apologetically, asking, "Any chance you guys could give our young lady a lift?" Hong Wan scowled, his mind racing. Checking out the crest on that trashed carriage. They're definitely repping the Uman clan. Factoring in the recent ambush, someone definitely leaked our cargo manifest. And am I seriously supposed to buy that an Uman transport just randomly broke down right in our path? Hong Wan flat out rejected them, snapping that a ride wasn't happening. But in the blink of an eye, Hio stepped gracefully out of the wreckage. Tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear, she smoothly apologized for the delayed intro. She introduced herself simply as, "Hey," the literal heiress of the Uman patriarch. The guys were instantly starstruck, basically drooling as they gasped, "Holy crap, she's literally a goddess. How is someone even that gorgeous?" Watching the chaos, our MC mentally cringed. God, they're so damn loud. Without warning, Hio strutted forward and effortlessly launched herself into the sky. The exact second she crashed this escort gig, every guy present was completely hypnotized, their jaws practically hitting the dirt. She was literally giving off kingdom-toppling beauty vibes. For a hot second, even the veteran Hong Wan was totally mesmerized by her glow. Floating down like a butterfly, Hio casually perched herself right on top of their top-secret cargo. Sol Young panicked, whispering, "Are we seriously letting a total stranger ride on the mission payload?" Huimpei scoffed. "Yeah, that's a massive red flag. Absolutely forbidden." But instead of kicking her off, Hong Wan's face flushed beet red as he stammered that since her ride was trashed, she could totally tag along, but strictly until the next town. Huimpei's eyes bugged out in pure disbelief. Bro, seriously. She even got the old man simping. Flashing a killer smile, Hio cooed her thanks sweetly, asking the boys to take good care of her on the road. The squad practically cheered in agreement. Huimpei sweat dropped. "Are they all completely brain dead?" Coughing awkwardly, Hong Wan pointed out, Miss, that cart holds our car. Wouldn't you be more comfortable up front?" But Heo smoothly brushed it off. "No worries. You guys are already doing me a massive solid." Hong Wan furrowed his brow, shooting a quick glance at our MC before reasoning. "Whatever, as long as the porter guards the stash. The payload should be perfectly safe." Taking the lead, he barked the order to march out. But the very next instant, Hio tapped into a telepathic sound transmission, mentally smirking to her crew that the old boomer took the bait way too easily. Still, just to play it completely safe moving forward. They'd only communicate through high-level encrypted whispers. "Loud and clear," Yeonsu echoed back in her mind. She continued her mental scan. "It's blatantly obvious. They've only got one actual fighter and 30 basic movers here. Did they honestly think I was blind? Besides that geezer Hong Wan, there is zero actual martial arts talent in this entire squad." She couldn't help but scoff. How on earth did they plan to protect a 5-cart convoy packed to the brim with absolute weapons of mass destruction? With such a trash defense, thunder bombs combined with heavenly light were insane volatile explosives engineered by the legendary Thunder sect. These bad boys packed enough sheer firepower to literally erase entire martial arts clans off the map. Armed with this deadly combo, The Thundersek's power and influence had basically skyrocketed daily. But in a brutal twist of irony, it was this exact arsenal that triggered their ultimate downfall, completely wiping the Thundersect from the history books for centuries. So seriously, Heo's eyes narrowed dangerously. Who the hell leaked the blueprint to craft these things again? The notorious Dread Shadow clan, completely wiped off the map. Her first thought was that someone must have dropped thunder bombs to pull off but the crime scene was spotless. Zero evidence. So who on earth had the raw power to absolutely obliterate an entire faction of deadly assassins? Swirling with these crazy theories, her eyes locked onto our main guy. Judging by his dusty, worn-out fit, dude was clearly just a bottom-tier baggage porter. But then, why was he packing cold steel? He didn't give off any heavy warrior aura, and honestly, he looked painfully average. Absolutely. So why was he living rent-free in her head? Her brows knitted together, scanning him up and down, until it hit her like a truck. Hold up. This guy hadn't spared her a single glance since they crossed paths. Like, hello. With god-tier visuals like hers, how was he acting so completely blind? Was there actually a dude alive who wasn't totally down bad for her? No shot. With her ego officially bruised, he slowly turned his head to face her. I mean, she was just a few feet away, but the second her gaze met Hyunwoo's, she completely froze, totally paralyzed by the sheer emptiness in his eyes. She'd never seen anything so chilling in her entire total, absolute indifference. Her brow furrowed as a bitter realization hit her. Was this what being humiliated actually felt like? A sudden urge to just absolutely wreck his smug face washed over her. So his name was Hyunwoo, huh? One way or another, she swore she'd force him to his knees. A little while later, Hyunpei's voice boomed through the camp, ordering everyone to set up for the night. The crew instantly barked back a unified, while the rest of the squad crashed on the dirt, our guy casually chilled by the tree line. Out of nowhere, Seol-yong strolled up to him, gripping a steaming bowl. So this is where he was hiding, she thought. She warmly offered him the food, saying, Hyunwoo, I brought you some beef stew. But in a flash, Hyo dashed right past her, leaning dangerously close to our MC's ear. Hey there, Mr. Porter, she whispered, tempting him to take a quick little trip into the woods. She promised to spill all her secrets, that is, if he could actually keep up with her pace. And with that teasing bait, she blasted. Her mind raced. If this low-level baggage carrier was packing a blade, he was definitely deep into the martial arts world. Maybe she could recruit him into the legendary Uman clan. There was no way her insane footwork wouldn't leave him absolutely hyped, right? If he was a real fighter, he'd be totally shook. But literally a split second later, his face was inches from hers, leaving her completely stunned. How the heck did he teleport right in front of her? Suddenly, Yunsa's panicked voice echoed through the trees, screaming, "It's Lady Uman Gumsa Unsa after him." They dashed into the darkness, loudly yelling their confirmation. Meanwhile, back at the camp, Seol-yong back in the woods, Heo was sweating. Even among the elite Uman prodigies, almost nobody could master the footwork technique, let alone some random porter. Her brow completely scrunched up. Who the hell are you? Our MC just casually dropped his name, then bluntly demanded to know Gigi's exact location. He told her to spit it out quick, because his stew was freezing over. She defensively snapped back that she had absolutely no clue where Gigi was. What kind of weird question was that? Hearing this, our guy pivoted on his heel, tossing out a quick, "If you're clueless, I'm out." Panic hit her, and she desperately reached out, begging him to hold up. She desperately needed answers, but right then, Schween busted onto the scene, screaming, "You absolute psycho! What did you do to Lady Uman?" He aggressively ripped his blade from its scabbard, furious that a filthy porter would dare lay a finger on a noble woman. He swore to end him right then and there, but Heo instantly intervened, barking at Yunsa to drop his weapon. The guards blinked in utter shock. Our MC had literally vanished into thin air. Their jaws dropped. How the heck did he pull that off? He was literally just standing there. Heo realized he didn't just run. This wasn't some basic martial arts dash. He straight up evaporated. And a split second later, he was already chilling right next to Seol-yong. A fierce gust of wind whipped through her hair, making her shriek in pure terror. Oh my God. She stared at her empty hands, completely bewildered, totally confused about where her bowl went. Meanwhile, our guy was already slurping his meal, happily noting that the broth was still piping hot. She stared at him like he was a ghost. "Hyunwoo, when did you even get back?" She then squinted into the dark forest, wondering, where did that girl you chased run off to? He just shrugged indifferently. Who cares? She'll come crawling back whenever she feels like it. Seo-young fixed her eyes on him, pivoting to the real question. She's crazy gorgeous, right? Like seriously. Lady Uman is stunning. The protagonist took another loud sip of his stew and casually agreed, yeah, pretty enough to have any guy wrapped around her finger. She nodded quietly agreeing. Then a massive blush crept across her cheeks, and she awkwardly mumbled asking if she could hit him with one more question. What did he honestly think of her? Was she cute? He glanced over, raising an eyebrow. You. She gulped and nodded. Yeah, me. He brutally hit her with a deadpan, not as cute as her. Her face fell instantly, a soft, oh. But then our MC smoothly added that he actually hates super gorgeous girls. Puzzled, she asked why. His response was cold, because falling for a beautiful woman is a guaranteed death sentence. Back in the woods, Yansa was losing his mind. He couldn't believe a simple porter pulled that off. This guy had to be the legendary fighter, who totally wiped out the Dread Shadow clan. Hyo strictly ordered her squad to keep the guy under absolute surveillance. They were totally in the dark about his real identity. Literally, all they had was a name, Hyunwoo. Who exactly was this absolute unit? Meanwhile, the Henan Agency's escort gig through the Sichuan province was finally wrapping up. The crew was back on the grind, constantly pushing forward. Seol-young couldn't stop obsessing over his words from last night. Falling for a beautiful woman equals death. What kind of insane trauma did Hyunwoo go through to drop a line like that? Her thoughts snapped when Hyunpei jogged up calling her name. She blinked. What's up? He warned her to stay highly alert. The closer they got to their drop-off point, the more suffocating and sketchy the vibes got. Their survival instincts were literally screaming. Hyunpei, Hongwan, and Cholgi were sweating bullets under the pressure. Hongwan gritted his teeth, knowing that by tomorrow, they'd finally hit the clan's main base. If there was going to be a final boss battle, it was definitely going to be against the Black Viper cult. The Black Viper cult, an insanely toxic syndicate that absolutely blew up over the past 10 years, locking down Sichuan with an iron grip. This could totally wreck the Tang clan, he realized, his mind reeling. It just didn't make any sense. Was there an inside rat leaking intel right under their... Right then, So-young dashed after our guy. Catching her breath, she warned Hyunwoo that Hyunpei sensed an ambush brewing, telling him to gear up. Before the words even left her mouth, he cut her off. About 100 guys. She blinked, completely thrown off. Wait. What? Watching him, Hyunpei was absolutely mind-blown. He pinpointed the exact head count just by reading their auras. That was insane. A split second later, armed thugs rained down from the canopy above. Our MC noted that at first it only felt like 50 of them. Hongwan roared over the chaos. Defend the payload at all costs. He barked at Hyunwoo to stay out of the crossfire. His only job was locking down the goods. Black Viper sect trash. Spinning on his heels as the ambushers swarmed him, he yelled that these guys were basically cannon fodder. With a flick of his wrists, a deadly spread of needles exploded outward. Hyunpei shot a nervous glance. What's the call, Hyunwoo? Can they hold the line? Without missing a beat, he replied, chill out. Right on cue, the razor-sharp projectiles shredded through the attackers, dropping them instantly, proving him completely right. Look, even though the Black Viper sect had seriously beefed up their ranks over the last 10 years, throwing mere numbers at elite masters was basically a joke. And that rule absolutely applied to the Tang clan elder, tearing through them like they were nothing. Hiding in the shadows, a few spies were seriously starting to sweat bullets. Hyunwoo narrowed his eyes, mind working. Did these guys seriously underestimate the Sichuan Tang clan? They just wiped the floor with 50 goons like it was a walk in the park. Meanwhile, Yansa channeled a secret telepathy art, whispering, even if we had 50 of our heavy hitters waiting to strike, we'd get crushed. Lady Uman pulling back is our only play here. Biting her lip, she calculated her next move. But how do I signal a ghost retreat without tipping them off? Out of nowhere, our MC casually chimed in. If you want to go past the message, I won't stand in your way. Yansa's jaw practically hit the dirt. What the heck? He just talked back to them. This guy casually tapped. He always believed that sound transmission was 100% hack-proof. Then our protagonist's gaze turned icy as he delivered a chilling warning if they didn't scatter. Right now, he'd slaughter every last... Hyo glared at him, a cold shiver running down her spine. He definitely wasn't bluffing. Dropping her eyes, she gave the command. Yeon-sa, get the message out. He bolted in the opposite direction, shouting back, On it, boss. I'll be back in a flash. Hyo bitterly muttered that thanks to his stunt, her clan's fighters were going to die for nothing. She had completely misread his actual motives. While she was busy stressing out, Hyun-woo was playing a totally different game. It wasn't that he thought the Uman clan was some unstoppable force, but the sheer suffocating bloodlust radiating from the area genuinely put him on edge. Back in the fray, Hong-won was busy dismantling the Black Viper crew. The surviving grunts secretly relayed a status update. Their front line was completely wiped out, but they were just sacrificial pawns anyway. The target would celebrate their easy win and drop their defenses. That's when the Crimson Moon Corps would strike. Everything was ticking along perfectly. Because Hyun-woo kept up his blind guy act, the Uman... Just then Yeon-sa hustled over, barking out Lady Uman's fallback command. Our guy stood there, sensing the shift. 50 goons had just bailed, but that sickening heavy bloodlust was only getting thicker. A little while later, Hyun-pei called it, suggesting they set up camp and crash for the night. He plopped down beside So-young, casually mentioning that Mistress Hyo was throwing up a tent. Want to bunk together? He asked. She met his gaze with a soft smile. Sure thing. Falling asleep alone out here is pretty tough anyway. But he quickly backpedaled, saying she really didn't have to do that if she didn't want to. Opening up, she admitted that she never really gave the Hanan escort agency much credit. It had always been so chill back home, like absolutely nothing could ever go sideways. She always assumed running cargo was a total cakewalk. But actually being out here in the dirt on a live mission, it hit her like a truck. The whole agency only got to sleep soundly because of the gritty warriors holding down the rear. These guys were literally putting their necks on the line to make sure the delivery survived. And as a proud member of this crew, she was going to rough it out and sleep in the trenches right alongside them. She swore to herself right then that she'd climb to the absolute top to lead the agency one. And not just because she was handed the keys as the privileged young miss of the Cho clan. She was going to earn it. Suddenly she snapped out of her zone, catching his stare. What, you got something to say? She asked, totally startled. Leaning in close, he looked her dead in the eye and dropped some wisdom. Surviving in this line of work starts with guarding the rear. Nodding slowly, listening, and Hyun-pei couldn't help but agree with that raw logic. Flashing a bright grin, So-young shot back. Well, if that's the deal, you better train me to be the ultimate fighter and porter. Hyun-pei smiled to himself. Man So-young was going to evolve into an absolute beast before he even blinked. Meanwhile, deep in the shadows, the Crimson Moon Corps, an elite hit squad bred by the was plotting. Forged through absolute hell, these assassins were absolute masters of the kill. Whether it was stealthy ambushes, brutal frontal assaults, or blending flawlessly into the terrain, they were unmatched. What made their sneak attacks pure nightmare fuel wasn't just their crazy cloaking gear that turned them into literal phantoms. It was their insane hive mind synergy. They moved, breathed, so no matter how massive the enemy squad is, they can wipe them out and end the mission in a flash. Fast forward a bit, and the whole camp was dead to the world. But our boy Hyun-woo, wide awake and locked in. He silently pushed forward while an assassin lurking in the pitch-black shadows beamed a telepathic order to the rest of the Crimson Moon Corps, telling them to get in formation. The squad whispered back, locking onto their targets, but Hyun-woo just smirked. Gotcha. So that's where you rats are hiding. Right on cue, the lead assassin announced he'd launch the ambush. On the count of 3. 1. But before the dude could even blink, Hyun-woo ghosted behind a goon and snatched him right by the throat. Next, he blasted a massive shockwave of pure aura at the second ninja, snatching his neck in a vice grip too. Completely clueless, the leader yelled, 2, 3. The rest of the ambushers swarmed the camp, with their boss barking, "Wipe them all out, but first, we take down the biggest threat, Hong-won." They'd busted their humps hauling thunder bombs all the way out here, but at the end of the day, the Black Viper sect was gonna snatch the loot. In a flash, the assassin lunged, driving his blade straight toward a snoozing Hong-won. Clang, Hyun-woo materialized out of thin air, blocking the deadly strike with his own steel. The assassin's eyes practically popped out of his skull. What the? How are the guards still breathing, Crimson Moon Corps? What the hell is your malfunction? Suddenly, the rest of the goons froze, staring in pure shock. Who was this kid? They hadn't sensed even a sliver of his aura. The boss glanced sideways, cursing. Damn it. Hyun-woo just stared him down with ice in his veins. Crimson Moon Corps. So that's your little squad's name, huh? The assassin panicked. Wait, did this monster actually intercept their secret telepathic whispers? How was that even physically possible? Hyunwoo casually dropped the bomb that the Crimson Moon Corps had totally ditched them. The boss snapped, "You lying punk! Where did a freak like you even come from?" Without missing a beat, Hyunwoo raised his glowing fist. "Time to go join your buddies in hell." He unleashed an absolutely devastating strike. As everything faded to black, the assassin's final thought was pure despair. Is this really how the Crimson Moon Corps' master plan? Their ultimate heist to rake in massive cash goes up in smoke. Bam! The explosive clash finally jolted Hongwan awake. He bolted upright, totally bewildered. "What the hell is happening?" Cholji screamed. "Uncle, the whole forest is absolutely littered with dead assassins." Seo Leong groggily rubbed her eyes. "Hyunpei, what's going on?" He hopped to his feet, surveying the carnage. "Looks like the leftovers tried to pull a sneaky ambush on us." Her jaw dropped. "Wait, what? Are the guards okay?" He smirked. "Yep. The only ones taking a dirt nap are the bad guys. Lucky for us, Hyunwoo beat them to the punch." She locked eyes with our overpowered main character, completely in awe. He had literally carried the team and saved their lives. Hyo chimed in, muttering that the kid should at least show some emotion. But nope, he was basically a brick wall. The guy was an absolute mystery. Thanks to Hyunwoo hard carrying the squad, the escort crew dodged a massive bullet. They trekked the rest of the way with zero enemy, eventually rolling into their final drop point, Sichuan province, without a single scratch. A little while later, as they sprinted toward the bustling city gates, one of the guys cheered. "Once we hit Chengdu Road, this insane escort gig is officially over." The dude trailing behind him groaned. "Thank God I'm starving. I need food right now." Suddenly Xiaolong tilted her head. "Oh, by the way," Hyo raised an eyebrow. "What's up?" Xiaolong shot her a side eye and pressed. "Didn't you say you'd dip from the group once we hit Chengdu?" "Well, we're literally here." Hyo just waved her off coolly. "Chill out. I'll vanish when the timing is right." Xiaolong shrugged. "Whatever you say." Hyo watched the girl stroll ahead, grumbling internally. Little brat. Right then, Hyunpei jogged up next to Hyunwoo, patting his shoulder. "Yo, Hyunwoo, Our boy just gave him a blank stare. "I have literally zero idea what you're talking about." Hyunpei facepalmed. Right, my bad. I always forget your sense of humor is totally busted. Just drop it. But seriously, the An clan's territory is right down the road from the Tangs. You remember that buddy who practically begged you to join his family's guild, right? The guy you really cared about. I figured you might want to stop by and check in on his folks." Hearing that everything paused for Hyunwoo, a brutal flashback hit him. A heavily bleeding Seigi grabbing his shirt, choking out his final words. "Hyunwoo, you have to survive. Tell my old man." Snapping back to reality, a soft smile crossed his face. "Yeah, let's head over to the An clan right now." Finally, the heavily battered security convoy marched into Sichuan. The local guards instantly swarmed Hongwan, bowing deeply and shouting "Elder." The relief on their faces was real. They were hyped. He actually survived the bloodbath. He puffed out his chest and barked, "Cut the emotional crap. Get this cargo secured inside ASAP." Watching the hustle, Hyunpei and Seo Young sighed in pure relief. "Man, we finally made it." Hongwan walked over, tossing a heavy pouch their way. "Here you go. The escort fee, exactly as promised. You kids pulled off an absolute masterclass out there." Handing the massive bag of coins straight to So Leong, he offered a respectful nod. "I'm looking forward to our next gig, Miss Cho. Actually, scratch that. From here on out, it's Boss Cho, head of the security agency." Her eyes lit up as she grabbed the loot. "You bet it is. Thanks for the business." She stared at the payment, the heavy reality sinking in. This was her very first cut as the new boss of the agency. Hot tears blurred her vision. Her entire bloodline had been wiped off the map, leaving her totally alone to carry the massive weight of this security empire. This wasn't just cash, it was proof of survival. Catching her emotion, Hyunpei flashed a warm smile. "Boss, take a breath. We've got this handled from here on out." Brushing a stray tear from her cheek, a spark of pure resolve lit up her eyes. "He's right," she told herself. "For the ones still breathing, I have to be an absolute wall." A genuine smile broke through the grief as she looked up. "Thank you. Just promise you'll keep having my back." Cut to Heyo's squad, who had trailed them all the way to the Tang clan's turf. "Total buzzkill that those thunder bombs slipped right through our fingers," he muttered, visibly frustrated. Honestly, with how things are looking, we might as well pack it up and head back to base. Hio shoved past him, her eyes dead cold. Drop the obsession with the explosives. If those things were actually back in play, the main estate would have caught wind of it by now. Suddenly, a grunt hauling loot barked across the courtyard. Hey, watch how you handle that cargo. A lot of good people bled out in the dirt just to secure this stash. Hio narrowed her eyes, a dangerous aura leaking from her. The Uman clan never takes no for an answer. Period. I don't care how many bodies drop. Pivoting on her heel, her gaze locked onto the protagonist like a predator. And right now, that guy is top of my wish list. Meanwhile, deep inside the Tang clan's territory, the hype around Hyunwoo was going absolutely viral. The Uman clan was obsessed, but so was every single survivor breathing, only because he stepped up. Everyone was staring at this god-tier martial artist, projecting their own crazy levels of awe, fear, and gratitude right onto him. But Hyunwoo Hee was completely zoned out, replaying Hyunpei's warning in his head. Right then, Hongwan slid up to Hyunpei, giving him an approving nod. You absolutely crushed it out there. Kick back and crash here for a few days if you need. Hyunpei dropped into a crisp bow. I appreciate it, but I'd hate to overstay our welcome and annoy the higher-ups. Plus, Hyunwoo and I have some off-the-books business to handle. Somewhere we need to be. Mid-sentence, his jaw practically hit the floor. The MC had just launched himself onto the highest roof in one. Perched up high, Hyunwoo closed his eyes. Time to scan the radar. Let's see if anyone's aura matches Segi's vibe. Bingo. A pulse of energy practically mirrored Segi's signature. Down below, Hongwan wrapped up suggesting they crash in the main guest courtyard for the night. Over by Miss Cho, her loyal muscle stood at attention, completely exhausted. One dude groaned to the squad. Man, I would kill for a boiling hot shower right now. His buddy elbowed him hard, looking scandalized. Shut up. Have some respect in front of the boss lady. Ignoring the banter, So Young watched the duo, her curiosity spiking. Where exactly are those two sneaking? Catching her stare, Hyunpei flashed a quick smirk. Don't sweat it. We'll drop all the tea when we get back. Honestly, we're flying blind right now, hoping to strike gold. She gave a slow, hesitant nod. All right, just stay safe. Without warning, Hyunwoo stepped right into her personal space and pressed a concentrated pulse of pure chi onto her forehead. Her eyes shot wide. Wait, Hyun, you held the line perfectly out there, he murmured. Instantly, a rush of deeply soothing, warm energy. Whoa, that feels insane, she thought, melting into the sensation. Be back in a flash, he promised, before vanishing. Hyunpei pumped his fist. All right, let's roll. But halfway down the street, the hairs on his neck stood up. He glanced back. Wait, are we serious? Sure enough, Hio and her heavy hitters were sprinting right on their heels. Hyunpei groaned internally. This psycho isn't dropping it. She doesn't even know our destiny, but she's stalking us like a hawk. Up ahead, Hyunwoo clicked his tongue. Too slow. Seeing Hyunpei lag behind from checking his 6, the MC didn't hesitate. Hyunwoo blasted a raw surge of internal chi straight into his partner's core. Hyunpei gasped, totally spooked. What the? Suddenly, gravity just quit. His footwork. Oh, let's go. Next stop, the An clan's main compound, he hollered, zooming forward. Far behind, Hio was left eating their dust, screaming in pure shock. How are they moving like that? Her mind raced. Hold on. Is that bodyguard riding with Hyunpei secretly a high-tier master? Cut to the dead quiet outskirts of Chengdu. The duo finally skidded to a halt, right in front of the An clan's towering and Hyunpei cracked his knuckles, glancing at the MC. You locked in. Let's kick this door open. Right on cue, Heo and her goon came crashing out of the bushes, panting heavily. Caught you, you slippery bastards, she wheezed. Ignoring her, Hyunpei pounded his fist against the massive timber doors. His eyes darted around. 0 gatekeepers. At a main branch. Something. Boom. The heavy gates cracked open. A coon stood dead center in the doorway, shooting absolute daggers at the uninvited squad. The MC's eyes locked onto him, a shockwave hitting his brain. No way. The resemblance is insane. He's practically a coon's voice dropped to a lethal growl. I don't care who you are. We are closed to outsiders. Scram. Hyunpei held up his hands, stepping into the breach. Whoa, chill. We aren't here for— By any chance, does the name Segi ring a bell? Instantly, Akun's face twisted into pure, unfiltered rage. Who the hell is Segi? An explosive shockwave of killer intent blasted from his body. "Who sent you? Why are you digging around for Segi?" The crushing gravity of his aura forced Hyunpei to violently grit his teeth just to— Seriously, all he did was ask for a name. So why was this dude radiating pure murder? The killing intent was suffocating, crushing his lungs like a literal vice. Right as Hyunpei started gasping for air, Hyunwoo slid in front, body blocking the pressure with a massive surge of his own aura. But that just pissed Akun off even more. Grinding his teeth in absolute rage, he reached for the blade strapped to his back and roared. "You dare look down on me?" Hyunpei, watching from the sidelines, started panicking. Why isn't Hyunwoo dodging? Desperate Hyunpei yelled out, "Wait, you've got it all wrong. This guy is Segi's friend." That stopped him dead. His friend Hyunwoo locked eyes. Spot on. He dropped his name, and Hyunpei quickly chimed in, claiming he'd been living off the grid in the mountains for years, so his social skills were totally busted. Cooling down slightly, Akun introduced himself, revealing Segi was his nephew, the one who vanished without a trace 10 years ago, a whole decade since he went MIA. "So you crossed paths with him during that time. Where is he?" Akun demanded. Hyunwoo's mind started racing. Gija supposedly died 10 years ago, and Segi vanished 10 years ago too. That brutal, endless hell he survived. He thought he'd been trapped there for a century. Turns out it was only a decade. Before he could process it, Akun's patience snapped. "Tell me where Segi is right now." Hyunwoo looked at him. He knew exactly what he had to drop first. Deadpan, he stated, "My friend Segi is dead." Akun's eyes went wide. "What?" Blinding rage took over as he threw a massive punch. The shockwave blasted outward, leaving everyone's jaws on the floor. Hyunpei completely freaked out. "Stop it!" A furious aura ignited in her palms, but Yeonso grabbed her arm. "Madam, don't. It's suicide." She gritted her teeth in frustration. And in a flash, Hyunwoo caught her wrist. She gasped, staring up at him as he locked eyes with her. "Chill out. I've got this," he told her, shutting down her interference. She was stunned. Is Hyunwoo actually surviving this? But how meanwhile, Akun stared at his shaking fist in disbelief. His raw aura, it totally deflected my strike. He's an absolute monster, yet he didn't even counterattack. Is he seriously telling the truth about being a friend? Suddenly Baekwan stormed over, voice booming. "Akun, is this how we treat our guests? How many times do I have to tell you to leash that temper?" The ultimate boss, the Baek clan patriarch, had arrived. Akun immediately bowed in apology. Hyunwoo sized the older man up. "So this is Segi's dad." He didn't sugarcoat it. "Your son, Segi, he's gone." Baek flinched, a flash of grief hitting his eyes before he looked at the ground. A heavy silence fell. "We're keeping our guests standing out here like fools," the patriarch finally sighed. "Please come inside." Meanwhile, Solyung was leaning over the balcony, staring off into the sky. What is taking Hyunwoo and Hyunpei so long? The memory of Hyunwoo's sudden touch flashed in her mind. Her face flushed bright red as she buried her face in her hands. What was he even playing at? Her romantic panic was instantly shattered by a brutal scream. "Found him! The targets are holed up in this inn." She whipped around, sprinting back inside. An ambush. Wait, our escorts are totally exposed down there. Downstairs chaos had already erupted. A blade slashed through a customer, sending the entire tavern into a screaming panic. Commander Songul gripped his hilt, rolling his eyes. "You've got to be kidding me. We literally just ordered drinks and a whole bloodbath kicks off." His buddy groaned. "Bro, don't even start." Seol-young rushed down the stairs, urgently warning them. "Hyunwoo isn't here. If we get dragged into this turf war, we are completely screwed." Sungil nodded sharply. "Loud and clear, ma'am. We stay out of it." Seo-young kept her head down. "Thank God we aren't the targets." But butchering people in broad daylight in a packed tavern. "Who the hell are these psychos?" A bleeding martial artist screamed at the attackers. "You think you can just walk away from this? You're declaring war on the Thunderbolt Corps. The Tang clan will mount your heads on spikes." In response, the assassin squad leader just smirked. He mocked the dying man. "Are you really flexing the Tang clan right now? Don't you know those cowards scatter like street mutts? The second they catch wind of the Black Viper sect." Seol-young froze. "Wait, Black Viper, are these the same stalkers that have been shadowing our convoy this whole trip?" The assassin kicked a body. "Look, our boss was generous enough to offer you a way out. But you clowns wanted to play loyal lapdogs to the end. So now you all get put down." He leveled his dripping blade at the survivors, and the slaughter resumed. Sichuan had turned into an absolute meat grinder lately. Out of nowhere, the Black Viper sect had gone totally rabid. Riding on ancient restored power, they were swallowing up. So Lung slowly backed away, trying to blend into the shadows. But her luck completely ran out. One of the assassins locked onto her. In a literal blink, he was in her personal space, grinning like a creep. Well, well, what's a pretty little flower doing in a bloodbath like this? His squad started closing in. One of his lackeys chuckled. Yo boss, what's the holdup? We're already done wiping the floor with these guys. Looks like the creep found his new plaything for the day, huh? But So Young wasn't having it, coldly demanding they back off. Of course, the scumbag ignored her completely, crossing the line by grabbing her shoulder. He sneered, promising to teach her some manners, before dragging her to his boss. Clearly, this oblivious chick had zero clue what goes down when you catch the twisted eye of the black. His grubby fingers reached for her cheek. But in a flash, bam! So Young snapped his arm into a vicious lock, forcing him to bend completely in half. Without skipping a beat, she threw her entire body weight into the moment. The dude was completely shook. What the hell? He thought he was picking a helpless, pretty little flower, but damn, this rose had some serious thorns. Who the heck are you? He gasped. Towering over him, she casually dropped the bombshell. She is the eldest daughter of the clan leader. Oh, and she also happens to be the reigning boss of the Henan Security Agency. His jaw literally hit the floor. Wait, what? His goons started panicking, screaming that they just messed with the head of the agency. Man, this isn't even funny anymore, one lackey cried out frantically, begging for mercy and apologizing for being too blind to recognize V. But the leader he just stalked closer, invading So Young's personal space with a psychotic grin. So, you're not just some random girl, huh? Guess that means we gotta roll out the red carpet and show you some real respect, right? Her eyes darted around, doing the math. Reality check with her current skill level taking on this massive squad solo was absolute suicide. Plan B it is. She had to burn every ounce of her stamina and smash right through their front line. In a split second, she exploded into a dead sprint. The thugs instantly swarmed after her like bloodhounds. Don't just stand there, you idiots, grab her. The leader chased her with a sick, twisted smirk plastered on his face. Run, little lady, run for your life. Hearing his manic laughter, So Young meanwhile cut to Team Hun Woo, who just scored an exclusive invite inside the massive Ok clan estate. The crew gathered around the heavy wooden table. The air grew thick with sorrow as the clan leader sighed heavily. If my boy Segi was still breathing, he would have— He locked eyes with our boy. You two are the same age, aren't you? Our MC just gave a quiet nod. Watching this, Hyun Pyo's brain practically short-circuited. Wait, what? Does this punk even know what manners are? He mentally screamed. If the MC was only 20, the guy was literally double his age. Catching Hyun Pyo's utterly dumbfounded stare, Hyo leaned in, asking if he was feeling sick. Brushing off the awkward vibe, Biwon cleared his throat. All right then, tell me, how did my son— The MC's eyes dropped heavy with guilt. He wasn't just a comrade, he was my brother. The memories hit him like a truck, flashing back to the moment Segi begged for a blood oath. The promise was heavy. Whoever made it out of hell alive had to track down the families of the fallen. And without hesitation, the MC had sworn to do exactly that. Why even make a pact like that? Segi had asked. His answer was brutally honest. Because I just get this gut-wrenching feeling that we're running out of time. Seji had confessed his creeping dread that they wouldn't survive this. But the MC had clutched his shoulder, swearing up and down they would make it out together. We will find their families, he had promised. And we will do it side by side. But Segi just smiled a broken smile. If I don't make it back, go find my old man. Just tell him, I'm so damn sorry. That heartbreaking request was literally his final breath. Snapping back to the present, the MC looked the father dead in the eye. He died throwing— Biwon's knuckles turned white as he gripped the table, his whole body trembling. To think, my boy threw his life away for a brother. That is a death truly worthy of the Ak bloodline. Tears pricked his eyes as he pictured his son's last beaming smile before leaving home. Don't worry, Dad. Biwon's face crumpled under the weight of his grief. Segi, if only I knew that was our final goodbye. Looking at the MC, Biwon's heart shattered all over again. This kid had survived the exact same meat grinder that swallowed his son. Choking back emotion, he asked, Hun Woo, is that your name, son? That was all the clan leader needed to hear. Then from this second forward, you are my flesh and blood too. He slammed a hand over his own heart. "Call me father." Akun gasped in pure shock, while Hyunpyo's mind went totally blank. No freaking way. Our stone-cold, emotionless Hunwoo. There was zero chance he would ever play along with this, especially right after almost getting his skull caved in by a broadsword. But to everyone's absolute disbelief, the MC bowed his head. "Understood, father." The room completely froze. Biwon bit his lip desperately. "Segi, you really picked a good one." Suddenly Biwon threw his head back and let out a booming, roaring laugh. "Haha. I expect nothing less from the man my son called a brother. Kid, your guts are absolutely legendary." He vaulted out of his chair, totally hyped. "All right, enough moping. Get up, let's move." His new son had finally come home after 10 brutal years in the trenches. There was no way he was just going to sit around. This called for a massive celebration. "Bring out the best booze we have." With the boss barking orders, the heavy tension in the room instantly melted away into pure good vibes. As the drinks flowed, Akun filled Hyunpyo in on the dark history behind the estate. A decade ago, when Segi vanished without a trace, the Ak clan was just a totally irrelevant no-name faction in Sichuan. But losing his kid broke Biwon. He poured every single dime he had into finding him, practically driving the clan to ruin. But out of nowhere, a wandering martial arts god rolled up to the gates and blessed them with the legendary Giha technique, the divine art of the moon-slicing blade. Desperate to numb the agonizing grief of a dead son, Biwon locked himself away and grinded his martial arts to absolute perfection. That psychotic dedication, that is exactly how he forged the Ak clan into the terrifying powerhouse it is today. "But here's the catch," Akun whispered. "Lately, some rogue syndicate has been swallowing up every single faction in Sichuan, big or small. And yeah, we just ended up directly in their crosshairs." So right now the clan was gearing up for an all-out bloodbath. Wrapping up the story, Akun bowed low, deeply apologizing one last time for almost taking off the MC's head earlier. Hyunbei and Hyo completely froze, straight up mistaking these guys for the monstrous orcs of the Black Viper sect. The Black Viper sect. They exchanged nervous glances. Weren't those the exact same psycho assassins who had been relentlessly hunting them throughout this entire escort mission? Right then, Biwon turned to his son. Our MC took a casual sip of his drink, raising an eyebrow as he wondered if there was actual liquor in it. Suddenly, he picked up on a secret telepathic whisper. The target's movement technique was way faster than he anticipated. Could she actually be the legendary head of the security agency? Honestly, it didn't even matter, because right now absolutely nobody was coming to her rescue. Without missing a beat, our boy casually dropped that he would be right back. His dad, Biwon, blinked in total confusion, like go where? But before anyone could even process the question, our MC set his glass down and vanished into thin air. Hyunbei yelled out his name, totally baffled. Meanwhile, the Azure Moon squad was closing in hot on So Young. She spotted them and her heart dropped. They had actually caught up. One of the thugs smirked at her and taunted. "Is this seriously all the head of the security agency has got? Give it up, sweetheart. I am taking you down regardless." He lunged forward to grab her, but a split second later, he slammed straight into an invisible wall. The dude clutched his mangled hand and shrieked, "You crazy psycho!" What kind of insane aura is flowing through her? So Young was just as shook. Wait, what energy? Then it hit her. She remembered our protagonist's gentle touch. It was the protective aura Hyunwoo had secretly planted on her back. Seeing this, another warrior ripped his blade from its scabbard and roared, "You arrogant little brat." But the guy behind him snapped at him to chill out. It would be a total waste if she died before they got to have some fun with her. The swordsman scowled, but told them to relax. With a vicious swipe, he shredded her outer clothes. So Young's blood ran cold. She was completely defenseless, and Hyunwoo's protective barrier had totally faded. There was zero chance she could win. If a living nightmare was all that awaited her, she would rather end it on her own terms. As the thug pointed his blade right at her throat, So Young squeezed her eyes shut and threw herself straight at the steel. "Father, brother, I am so sorry I couldn't avenge you. Please forgive me for being so incredibly weak." But a split second before impact, our MC thrust his hand out. "Good thing I made it in time," he muttered, catching the deadly blade with his bare hand. He effortlessly shoved the weapon aside. The thug stumbled back, eyes wide with panic. Where the hell did this punk come? Our MC instantly dashed into the crowd of warriors, kicking up a massive dust cloud. "What is happening? We cannot see anything through this smoke, they screamed. Hyunwoo turned to the girl. What exactly did you think you were doing? So Young gasped. Hyunwoo, she looked at him with teary, desperate eyes. She knew it was totally reckless, but in that terrifying moment when she thought her life was over, only one person crossed her mind. Hyunwoo. Were you seriously about to just throw your life away? He demanded. Meanwhile, the enemy leader sneered. What a shame that weird little force field around her is completely gone, and she is practically running on fumes. They figured they could execute her in a heartbeat. Just don't let anyone say, we lost our target because of this random idiot. Hyunwoo's eyes grew incredibly cold. I get why you did it, he told her softly, but never try to die on me again. So Young practically whispered, okay. The thugs were furious. Do you two even realize who you are messing with? Are you not terrified of the Black Viper clan? At that moment, So Young saw a look on Hyunwoo's face that sent shivers down her spine. It was pure, unadulterated rage. Hyunwoo swung his blade, violently smashing it straight into the dirt. The ground beneath them erupted. Jagged boulders exploded upward, impaling the warriors. One of them spat blood and screamed, "No way! The earth is literally swallowing us alive." "This is impossible," he shrieked, staring up as a colossal beast formed from the rubble, a dragon tearing through the ground. So Young gasped in total awe. "Wait, is that?" Our MC cut her off. "Earth Dragon. The second form of the three-energy sword technique." "Let's bounce," he said casually. "We haven't even finished our dinner." Back at the estate after the messy clash with the Black Vipers, the heavily delayed banquet was finally popping off as the tension slowly melted away. But there was one guy totally missing from the party vibe, Young Baek. This dude was a hyper-calculating genius who handled literally every single detail of the Dan clan's massive estate. And the reason he was hardcore stressing right now was because Dan Hyunwoo had mysteriously ghosted them right in the middle of the feast. He glared at the oblivious crowd. The Black Vipers could literally ambush us at any given second, and these guys are out here drinking. Where did that kid wander off to? Is he secretly a spy? Chief Biwon sighed heavily. "Young Baek, I get why you were stressed, but that boy is like a literal son to me now. Drop the paranoia." Young Baek gritted his teeth. "But Chief," he protested, "the Black Vipers are absolute scum who will cross any line. What if they intentionally planted him to emotionally manipulate you? If that is true, then isn't this the ultimate golden opportunity for them?" To strike honestly Young Baek's paranoia was straight up justified, because at that exact second, the Black Moon Corps of the Black Viper clan was already making their move. Deep in the shadowy woods, the Black Viper clan's elite White Moon Corps tore through the underbrush. Their leader barked a chilling order. "We're wiping the Ak clan off the map tonight. Leave absolutely no survivors." A subordinate practically barked back. "Consider it done, boss." But out of nowhere, an icy voice sliced right through the dark. "You Black Viper mutts aren't making it anywhere near the Ak estate. Show yourself." "Who the hell is that?" the leader roared. Suddenly his pupils shrank. "Wait, is that lightning?" A deafening crack echoed as a brutal strike sent him flying. "Boss!" his men screamed in pure panic. Out of the smoke, our badass MC materialized, glaring holes into them. "I'm not letting you trash my old man's good mood," he sneered. So Young gave him a major side-eye right before he launched himself into the bloodbath. Since when did this guy actually have a dad?" she deadpanned to Hyunwoo. Meanwhile, back at the Ak clan's heavily guarded gates, a lone sentry caught a blinding flash lighting up the horizon. His jaw dropped. Standing there, radiating absolute villain energy, was Dan Hyunwoo. The guard scrambled back toward the main house, his heart pounding out of his chest. "I gotta warn them," he shrieked at the top of his lungs. "Boss, we're under attack. The Black Viper sect is here. Both the Black and White Moon squads are pulling up." Hearing this, Young Baek's blood ran cold. "I knew it," he muttered. Akun completely lost his mind. Those absolute morons really want to start a bloodbath tonight. Hyo and Pei blinked, totally lost. "Wait, what's going on?" Biwon smashed his fist onto the wooden table, wood splintering under the force. "Bring me my sword now," he bellowed, noticing the clan leader had literally forced the alcohol out of his system in pure rage. Suddenly another guy burst in, screaming, "Chief, are they all dead already?" Young Baek whipped around, stunned. "What the heck are you babbling about?" Akun snapped. "Are you saying the entire hit squad just got wiped out?" Trembling like a leaf, the guard stuttered. "I saw it with my own eyes. Some demon. just torched them to ash. B1 gripped. "A demon? Are you drunk on the job?" the chief growled. "I swear I'm not capping," the guard pleaded, tears streaming down his face. "This absolute monster just spawned out of nowhere. A demon? Are we really talking about a freaking demon right now?" B1 flared his insane aura. His patience fully snapped. "You've lost your damn mind. I'll show you what a real monster looks like." But the guard just pointed a shaky finger, bawling. "Boss, look behind you. He's literally standing right behind you. That's the monster." B1's stomach dropped. Behind me, our MC casually stepped out of the shadows, smirking. "I'm home, old man." Cut to a totally different, sinister figure, miles away, growling. "I made it crystal clear that the Great Celestial Clan was our target. So why the hell are my guys dropping like flies?" The trembling warrior. "We tracked them to an inn in Songdo, sir. Rumor has it they were chasing some chick." The boss narrowed his eyes. "A chick? Take a literal army if you have to. Hunt her down," he spat. "Wait, boss. Before we do that," the warrior hesitated, sweating bullets. "Please don't kill me for saying this, but the Black and White Moon assassins we sent to slaughter the Ak clan were completely wiped off the map." The sect leader's face twisted into pure rage as he punched the earth, shaking the very ground beneath them. "Listen up. The worst part is they dragged the Blue Moon Squad's corpses with them and are heading straight for our main base. Unleash the thunder of Jinchun. We are nuking the Ak clan out of existence." Fast forward a bit. Sol Yong gave a polite bow, genuinely thanking everyone for having her back during the chaotic night. "Oh, don't sweat it. You're our nephew's squad," an elder beamed. "No need for thank yous. You kids should totally crash here a little longer." While they appreciated the vibe, it was time to hit the road. One of the guys grumbled internally. "Those two have been glued to her since yesterday. Why is he giving her the cold shoulder just to mess around with that clueless chick?" Akun tilted his head. "Why does our nephew's +1 look so salty this morning?" Heo did a double take. "Wait, did you just say +1? "Yeah, his partner. Come on. Isn't she basically our golden boy's fiancé at this point?" Akun chuckled. Heo pointed. "Then who's the other girl kicking it with them?" Akun squinted, rubbing his chin. "Honestly, they give off major sibling energy." "Seriously," Heo sighed. "Guess she's just gonna act like yesterday's drama never even happened." Just as our MC was about to bounce, Akun hollered at him to hold up. "You can't just dip without saying peace to the clan leader. It's an Ak clan tradition, man. The guy literally lives for his morning grind. So he's definitely sweating it out at the training grounds right now." Meanwhile, B1 unsheathed his massive blade, the steel singing as he swung it with terrifying speed. He couldn't stop obsessing over Hyunwoo's massive flex last night. "My uncle spilled the tea on this a while back," B1 muttered to himself. "But seriously, how the hell did that kid solo the entire Black Viper hit squad? What kind of broken, overpowered martial arts is he using?" Interrupting his thoughts, Sol Yong chimed in. "Not trying to step on any toes here. Chief, it's the Sword of Three Tribulations. They literally learned it from Zhongyi Jia." B1's jaw hit the floor. "Wait, what? The Zhongyi Jia? So that legend is his master?" Our MC's face darkened. "Hell no. He gave us the absolute basics for 3 years. We grinded out the rest of it on our own." B1 eyed him, his mind racing. Were they actually that tight with Zhongyi Jia? No wonder the kid was a walking cheat code. He learned from an absolute top-tier beast, Hyunwoo scoffed. "Don't get it twisted. That guy isn't our mentor. He basically tossed us straight into hell. To me, he's nothing but an op." B1 almost dropped his blade. "Hold up, Zhongyi Jia is your enemy." His brain short-circuited. The exact same monster who brutally murdered his own son, Ak Se-gi, was somehow the exact same guy who gave these kids the ultimate power-up to save their dying clan. Young Baek stepped in, his voice heavy. Maybe there's a deeper lore to why he handed this ultimate technique over to the Ak clan. Maybe this is his twisted way of trying to wash. Left completely alone, B1 realized the bitter truth. He had scored this legendary martial art, but the price tag, his own son, with rival clans breathing down the Ak family's neck, dropping this technique simply wasn't an option. He had to hold on. His blade sliced through the air, completely obliterating the training dummy. "What am I supposed to do now, kid?" he wondered. Just then, our MC stepped right into his line of sight. B1's brows locked together. "What brings you out here before dawn?" he grumbled. Hyunwoo didn't miss a beat. "We are moving out." "If you gotta go, you gotta go," the old man sighed. Are we talking about that stash of materials the MC just gave? Staring at Dan Hinwoo Biwan felt a massive wave of regret. Seeing his last living friend standing there in his final years, the old man— "The Murim isn't just about raw muscle," he warned, his voice dead serious. "Strength doesn't always win. Keep your eyes peeled, kid. Watch my boys back for me, will you?" The young guy stood tall. "You got it, sir." Cutting their final ties with the Ak clan, the crew headed back to base camp. But the second they arrived, total chaos. "Boss, where the heck have you been?" someone screamed. "Thank God you are in one piece." The whole squad was practically having a heart attack, terrified that last night's shady meetup had gone completely sideways. Sol Young flashed an apologetic look. "My bad for scaring you guys. But ditch the panic mode right now. Gear up. We are heading back to Henan immediately. The minute we touch down, we are rebuilding this agency from the ground up." A guard pumped his fist. "Hell yeah, I might not be a top-tier fighter." Suddenly, a scout bolted into the room, gasping for air. "Boss, we are totally screwed. That gang's backup just barricaded the entire inn. We are talking over 100 heavily armed goons out there." Sol Young peeked through the blinds, her jaw dropping. "Are you kidding me? Are they seriously hunting us down?" She panicked. Our boy just scowled. "Let me guess. Those Black Viper clowns." She gulped and nodded. "Yeah." Hinwoo cracked his knuckles and stepped up. "Perfect," he smirked. "So the Black Viper sect is definitely gunning for the Ak family," he deduced. Gazing down at the massive army of thugs, a cold grin crept onto his face. "Everything is falling right into place. What are you losers waiting for? Slaughter everyone inside, but drag that chick out here alive." One of his henchmen crossed his arms and snickered. "Yo, boss, check out that balcony. Looks like one of her bodyguards is about to wet himself. Dude is so terrified he is actually jumping." Our MC practically swan-dived off the roof, the grunt causing Danwall to shriek like a little kid. "Where the heck is this lightning coming from?" Hinwoo landed with a heavy thud, his eyes glowing. "As of today, the Black Viper sect is officially cancelled," he announced. And just like that, the massacre began. Dan Hinwoo absolutely wiped the He was not letting anyone touch his agency crew. Once the dust finally settled, one of the guards nervously whispered, How many did we lose?" "None," another fighter replied. "Pack your bags, we are heading for Henan. Let's scrub this mess and get out of here quickly." Sol Young sighed, looking totally exhausted. "I am so sorry we keep dragging you into these bloodbaths." A guard shrugged it off. I've done it a few times, but I'm actually getting pretty used to the cleanup duty." Sol Young bit her lip, staring into the distance. "Do you really think Hinwoo can solo the entire Black Viper syndicate? That's pure suicide." The guard just grinned, looking at the absolute wreckage around them. "Nah, my money is on him dropping them all." Meanwhile, at the enemy base, the Black Viper bigwigs were pulling out the big guns. They were about to unleash their ultimate trump card, 3 true heavenly lightning bombs. They figured these bad boys would instantly vaporize all their recent headaches. These explosive devices were custom forged by the legendary Thunderstrike clan. We are talking next-level destruction, compared to your basic explosive and unparalleled firepower. But here is the catch. They were so ridiculously volatile that the very clan who invented them accidentally blew themselves off the map. Yeah, the Thunderstrike folks literally got roasted by their own heavenly lightning. The Viper boss held the bomb up, his eyes gleaming. "With this kind of heat," he bragged, "I am going to totally erase the Ak and Tong families from existence." Just then, a rookie bolted into the command center, panting. "Boss Danwall is back." The leader raised an eyebrow. Did he bag that girl, or what? The rookie gulped, sweating bullets. "Well, about that. He made it back, sure. But what?" "Spit it out," the boss snapped. The scout pointed outside, trembling. Some crazy dude is literally dragging." Cut to our boy Hinwoo, casually strolling up the path, while dragging a half-dead Dan Wool by the scalp. He tilted his head. "Is this the Black Viper hideout?" Dan Wool sobbed, absolutely terrified. "Yes, please, man, just let me go." The MC ignored him, scanning the perimeter. "This entrance looks mad sketchy," Hinwoo noted. Dan Wool coughed up blood. "Yeah. You cannot just walk right in. It's a massive maze of interconnected dummy houses. If you aren't an Inner Circle Viper, you will never find the actual door. Spare my life, and I will navigate for you," he begged. Hinwoo just cut him off with a dead-eyed stare. Hard pass. He hoisted the commander into the air and punted him like a football. The guy launched right through the front building, smashing a crater into the far wall. "I will just blast my own way through," Hin Wu casually stated. He sprinted straight into the rubble, winding up to boot the poor guy all over again. The Viper Clan warriors had already swarmed the area. Their boss scowled, completely mind-blown. Dozens of stone wall layers formed a massive labyrinth, some even beefed up with high-tier magic. But this guy, he shredded through them like wet paper. The boss barked out a desperate roar. No matter how overpowered this intruder was, did he seriously think he could solo the entire Black Viper sect? There was zero chance he was walking out of this alive. Hin Wu simply channeled his mana, unleashing a shockwave that completely swept the warriors off their feet. The boss panicked. What in the world was this broken technique? The dude looked completely average. Plus, he was way too young. Was he actually a legendary grandmaster who had achieved literal rejuvenation? You know that god-tier state where an ancient master hits peak enlightenment and literally reverse ages back to his prime. As the grunts scrambled wildly in every direction, our main character casually strolled forward. "So are you the boss of these Black Vipers?" The leader whipped out a deadly explosive, screaming his lungs out. He never planned to drop this trump card here, but Hin Wu left him no choice. Ripping the seal, he roared, "True heavenly lightning." Hin Wu just stared at the bomb, tilting his head with a bored, confused look. Boom! A blinding blast absolutely nuked the courtyard. The boss smirked wildly. The true heavenly lightning was an absolute cheat code. If he had not perfectly timed his distance, he would have been vaporized right along with him. Even if this kid was a literal martial arts god, there was absolutely no way he tanked that. Suddenly, a chilling voice echoed through the smoke. "Any last words?" Hin Wu casually sliced through the blazing inferno with his blade. Earth Dragon. Out of nowhere, a colossal beast erupted from the dirt, jaws unhinged. The beast let out an ear-piercing roar and instantly snatched the boss in its teeth. And just like that, the dreaded Black Viper sect was entirely erased from the all thanks to an absolute menace named Dan Hin Wu. The surviving grunts scattered like cockroaches, screaming their heads off. He is a demon, a literal monster. This gray-robed demon just wiped out our entire sect because of Hin Wu's insane carry. The Henan escort agency managed to bag 2 unexploded true heavenly lightnings. Soon enough, wild stories from the traumatized survivors started leaking out, one after another, pouring from the lips of the few guys lucky enough to flee the absolute massacre of the Black Viper clan. They rambled about a guy dripping in gray robes who soloed their entire syndicate like some unstoppable, vengeful ghost. These crazy rumors went totally viral across Sichuan in under an hour. Surprisingly, the gossip even hit the elite Tang clan. The man furrowed his brows, completely baffled. Wait, the Black Viper clan, literally one of the most dominant syndicates out there, got A warrior gasped. How is that even mathematically possible? Tang Chong-san, the absolute boss of the Tang clan, gritted his teeth. We sweated blood trying to keep those guys in check. They even secured those deadly thunder bombs. Yet out of nowhere, this mysterious powerhouse just casually drops in. He slammed his fist down. This random upstart is going to be a massive headache for the whole Sichuan region. He immediately ordered a full-scale lockdown investigation to find out exactly who this faction is. Chilgi grimaced and nervously replied, "Honestly, sir, word on the street is it was literally just one dude." Chang-san completely lost it. "One dude? Do I look like an idiot to you? How dare you feed me this absolute garbage?" Chilgi flinched. "But sir, the survivors literally swore on it." Tang Hongguan chimed in, stroking his chin. "Interesting. This might actually be legit. So this guy was rocking gray robes." Chilgi nodded frantically. "Yes, 100%. Chong-sun spun around completely stressed. "Uncle, do you have any From there, the Tang clan leader, Tang Chong-san, sat completely frozen, soaking in every insane detail of Dan Hin Wu's absolute rampage. Processing the hype, Chong-san's eyes widened. If this guy is actually that cracked, we absolutely cannot let him slip away. We need to lock him down and recruit him into the Tang clan immediately. Hongguan raised an eyebrow. A perfect couple. Seriously. Fast forward a bit, and our overpowered main character finally strolled back to his squad, and everyone spun around, faces lighting up as they waved him over. Sualong practically jumped with joy. Meanwhile, in a dark, secluded lair, a furious scream violently shattered the silence. The Black Viper clan got wiped. We invested stupid amounts of resources into those pawns. A trembling minion gulped. Yes, sir, that is correct. The demonic mastermind, coldly ordered him to spit out exactly how this massive screw-up happened. The lackey kept his head down, sweating. It was a solo raid, sir, done by the kid raised by Zhang Gija. The demon's aura exploded as he violently threw his hand forward. One single person. Are you actually telling me an entire army lost a turf war to one solitary brat? The minion aggressively groveled. But luckily, we already zeroed in on his exact location. He is currently laying low, working as a literal baggage boy for the Henan escort agency. The demon growled. To completely dominate Sichuan, they practically spoon-fed the blood moon technique to those Viper losers. Not to mention, the lackey added, we literally gifted them 3 mass destruction thunderbolts. The demon completely snapped. After hooking them up with all that overpowered gear, you expect me to believe they got packed up by a glorified delivery boy. Crushed under the villain's suffocating mana pressure, the grunt shoved his face into the dirt, begging for his life. The demon coldly commanded him to stalk this anomaly and come back with a full recon report. He clenched his jaw. Birthing an absolute monster in such a tiny time frame. Could this seriously be Zhang Gija's masterpiece? Whatever. It does not even matter. The hour of reckoning is right around the corner. He vowed to completely eradicate every last trace of his legacy, starting with this annoying threat. After surviving a brutal gauntlet of non-stop chaos, the Henan escort agency crew finally dragged themselves back home. They secured the bag. So Young carefully inspected the deadly bomb, completely starstruck. This dude is absolutely cracked. He literally soloed the entire Black Viper clan and casually brought us loot. Hinwoo just gave a chill nod. Yeah, pretty much. They called it the True Heavenly Lightning. He raised an eyebrow. True Heavenly Lightning. Wait, isn't that the mythic nuke that absolutely wiped the Thunderstrike clan off the map? Hyunwoo shot back. It's way more than just some bomb. This is the True Heavenly Lightning. Figuring it could be a massive power-up, he snatched it up. Sol Young nudged Pei, absolutely mesmerized. Look at it. It spins so... Pei threw his hands up in absolute panic, screaming, "Boss, hand that over right now before it blows us all to kingdom come." She passed it over, tilting her head. Are you going to keep it for yourself? Obviously, he deadpanned. He was the only one who could actually keep the thing from detonating, since only Hyunwoo grasped the true mechanics behind the True Heavenly Lightning. So securing the explosive fell entirely on his shoulders. Plus, everyone knew deep down that this artifact was going to be the ultimate trump card for reviving the Henan Security Agency. But right as they were packing up to roll out, Hyo materialized right in their path. Heading to Henan, she smirked. What a crazy coincidence. I'm actually heading that way myself. Mind if I tag along? Seo Young sighed. At this point, she might as well start clocking in and doing the agency's paperwork. Pei chuckled, waving it off. Come on, it's totally out of character for her to ask so casually. We should definitely let her roll with us. Hyo's eyes lit up. Does this mean we're officially a squad now? What do you guys think? Pretty dope, right? The MC just glared at her. Stop invading our personal space. Sol Young stepped in to mediate. Regardless, we're relying on your teamwork here. Hyo spun around with a bright yep. Meanwhile, Sol Young, great. The walking, talking root of all our stress is just chilling like nothing's wrong. Just picturing the chaotic road trip back home was giving her massive anxiety. Suddenly, a booming voice ripped through the air, ordering the Henan agent. The crew whipped around, spotting a whole squad approaching. It was Hongwan commanding them to hold up. Pei blinked in surprise. Elder Tang Hongwan, what brings you out here? The old man crossed his arms. I need a tiny favor. We've got business down in Henan, too. How about we share the road? For sure, Hop and Elder. Pei agreed instantly. Sol Young, however, was quietly doing the math in her head. She'd been super stressed about her crew burning out from the massive trek ahead. So having a powerhouse like Tang Hongwan join the party was a massive relief. Then Hongwan gestured to his side. And this young lady right here. Flashback to a while ago, Chong-san was standing in the grand hall of the Tang clan leader. With his hands clasped firmly behind his back, he muttered, they definitely should have crossed paths with the Henan agency by now. He had handed her the ultimate opportunity. From this moment on, she was the architect of her own fate. Tang Muyen pressed a hand over her heart, swearing her resolve. She was the proud daughter of the Tang clan leader, Tang Chong-san. Her name was Tang Muyen. Back in the present, the girls in the crew were absolutely sizing her up. The MC mentally sighed. Great, looks like another top-tier beauty just crashed our party. And just like that, the chaotic trek to Henan kicked off. A while later, the squad was trekking through an open clearing. Henan agency boss Cho Sol-young felt a weird, heavy knot of dread forming in her stomach. Dealing with Tang Hongwan was one thing, but Tang Muyan tagging along was a massive red flag. This girl wasn't just anybody. She was literally ranked as one of the most drop-dead gorgeous icons in the entire Miram world. She was a literal soaring phoenix, one of the legendary 3 phoenixes and 2 flowers. She served lethal looks and backed it up with god-tier martial arts skills. The 3 phoenixes and 2 flowers, the 5 most famous beauties in all of Miram. And if that wasn't crazy enough, what on earth were they supposed to do about Lady Eom Hyo? As the boss of the Eom clan, she arguably flexed even harder than Tang Muyan in both visuals and combat stats. Sol-young gripped her. Why in the name of the heavens are 2 absolute goddesses slumming it with our squad right now? It was obvious they were both chasing the exact same objective, right? Bingo. The radar of these 2 insanely elite women was locked onto one single target. For the entire hike, Tang Muyan had been low-key glaring at the MC. I don't get it, she thought. No matter how you slice it, this guy is completely basic. Was the hype her dad and grandpa fed her actually real? Both beauties had their eyes glued to Dan Hyunwoo. Muyan decided it was time to test the waters. She casually strolled up to the MC and sparked a conversation. Hey, since we're stuck in the same caravan, shouldn't we at least break the ice properly? He suppressed a smirk. Wow, she's already going on the offensive. The MC didn't even bother to glance her way, causing Muyan to absolutely snap. Excuse me, I'm talking to you. Why are you ghosting me to my face? Hyo chuckled softly. Classic. Always with that cold, unbothered stare. Sol-young nervously laughed, trying to do damage control. Ah, Miss Tang Muyan just isn't quite used to our groups. The MC finally spoke up. What exactly do you people want from me? Muyan scoffed. Seriously, why is he coming at us with that attitude? He rolled his eyes internally. You hit me with a pop quiz, don't expect me to play nice. Hongwan suddenly frowned, cutting the tension with a brutal truth. We need your heavenly lightning art. Muyan whipped around absolutely scandalized. Uncle, what the heck? Sol-young's jaw basically hit the floor. I mean, she kind of suspected this when they forced their way into the party, but dropping the bomb this bluntly? That was wild. In the Miram world, secret arts are strictly a master-to-disciple legacy. Flat-out demanding someone's martial arts techniques is a massive, unbreakable taboo. And there was absolutely zero chance that Elder Tang Hongwan didn't know. Hongwan brushed the topic aside. Let's put a pin in that for a sec. So what's your endgame for this newly rebooted security agency? Sol-young declared she intends to pull off a full-scale revival. Hongwan's expression turned dead serious. Now that's a worthy ambition. Hear this from now on. Whenever the Tang clan rolls through Henan, we're booking your agency exclusively. Sol-young's jaw dropped. Wait, is he dead serious? She couldn't wrap her head around it. A massive flex like that definitely came with a toxic price tag. But Hongwan totally waved off her panic. Chill, he insisted. This is a total win-win for both sides. We just have one tiny string attached. 1 or 2 of our elites will tag along on your road trip until the Tang clan secures exactly what we're hunting for. Sol-young's blood ran cold. What they need is his insane combat style. Hyo narrowed his eyes, piecing it together. The heavenly lightning. But before anyone could sweat it, Hyunwoo shrugged effortlessly. Sure, no problem. The rigid rules of the Miram world. Yeah, those don't apply to this absolute menace. We're in, he casually dropped. Sol-young practically lost her mind. Hyunwoo, he blinked, stunned. Wait. Hold up, the head of the agency should be the one signing off on these terms, he stressed. Not him. But here's the wild lore drop. The heavenly lightning the Tang clan is hunting for is completely different from the technique that our boy Dan Hyunwoo actively uses on the Hyunwoo's version literally summons raw, crackling thunderbolts straight from the sky. Meanwhile, the Tang clan's legendary variant is supposed to be a devastating meteor shower of thousands of hidden weapons. But here's the catch. It's basically a myth passed down through generations. Not a single soul in the entire Tang bloodline has ever managed to pull it off, until Tang Hongwan cracked the code. And the missing puzzle piece, it was none other than Dan Hyunwoo. Seriously, did he really just smile? Hongwan shot Muyan a sharp look. Keep your eyes glued to this guy. Without a doubt, his wild lightning technique is hiding the exact blueprint we need. Muyan blinked, totally lost. Huh? What does he even mean? Suddenly Uncle Pai barked, "We're setting up camp here for the night." The guards instantly fell in line, shouting their obedience. Now the trap Hongwan set was actually super basic. He locked eyes with Hyunwoo. "How about a little sparring match?" Hyunwoo didn't miss a beat. "I mean, I'm gonna wreck you." Hongwan chuckled, noting that sparring isn't about flexing who's the ultimate apex predator. He obviously already knew his own limits, right? Pai sweated a little. "Hyunwoo bro, sparring means we walk away with 0 body bags." Hyunwoo deadpanned. "Relax, I won't kill anyone. He's sparred before. He totally knows the drill." Pai suddenly got crippling flashbacks to being his practice dummy. I was his sparring partner back then. What the hell was I even thinking? Muyan stepped up to the plate, totally dialed in. "This spot. Yeah, it'll do perfectly," she declared. "Ready to throw hands?" Hyunwoo lazily raised his blade. "Bring it." Muyan took a deep breath, mentally hyping herself up to scan his moves and steal the formula. Boom, Hyunwoo instantly unleashed a brutal voltage of lightning, straight at the old man, completely flattening him. Everyone's jaws hit the dirt in shock. Muyan sprinted over in absolute terror. "Uncle!" Hyunwoo just stood there casually. "Chill out, I was holding back." Muyan's brain short-circuited. "He calls that holding back," she spiraled. "How is this monster hoarding so much insane power?" Fast forward a bit. Muyan slumped down next to Hongwan. "Uncle," she whispered, her mind racing. "What's the play here?" That clash was over in a literal blink. She didn't even have time to track a single movement. She definitely couldn't risk him going feral in another match. But she absolutely had to crack his cheat code, no matter the cost. Because toxic threats like the Black Viper clan could pull up and jump their family again at any given second. Stressed about her clan's survival and her own rep, Tang Muyan sneaked out into the dark to confront Dan Hyunwoo. But spoiler, her stealth was garbage. Man Hyo was faking sleep right nearby, and Sol Young was fully awake too. They both side-eyed Muyan, insanely curious, about why she was creeping on him at the witching hour. "Warrior Dan," she whispered. Hyunwoo turned completely unbothered. "What's up?" Muyan bowed desperate. "Please, teach me the art of heavenly lightning. If you agree, I'll..." Hyunwoo just blinked. "Yeah, sure." Muyan's brain screened. "Wait, what?" Here's the absolute kick. Dan Hyunwoo literally never cared about gatekeeping his overpowered moves for a paycheck. He casually told her if she wanted the sauce, he'd drop the tutorial. Heo jumped up screeching, "Bro, are you out of your mind? Even absolute noobs know this is crossing the line. You don't just hand out S-tier secret skills." She wasn't even offering the crazy payout that Lady Tang hyped up. Hyunwoo just shrugged. "Look, if she wants to learn, I don't mind." Muyan was glitching out. "Wait, what?" He's just passing it out to anyone. Hyo practically begged him to pause and think, but Sol Young cut in. Can I get in on this too?" Hyunwoo nodded without hesitation. "Whoever wants the thunder gets the thunder." And just like that, Dan Hyunwoo's most chaotic masterclass on mastering heavenly lightning officially kicked off. Heo frowned, stressing hard. He literally said he'd teach anyone who wants it. And he wasn't kidding, he was schooling not just the aura users, but even the random NPC guards. Hyunwoo casually raised his glowing sword to the sky. He locked eyes with her, demanding she pay close attention. With a swift, effortless slash, he cleaved the air and challenged her to mirror the move. To her it looked like a basic, boring downward chop. Catching her doubt, Hyunwoo furrowed his brow and barked at the whole crew to give it a shot. Instantly, the group whipped their blades through the wind, slicing the empty space. But our guy shut them down instantly, yelling, "Nope, totally off." Hao blinked in confusion and shot back, "Bro, what do you—" The crew kept grinding on their trek back to Henan, but the brutal training never paused. Dan Hyunwoo turned every single pit stop into a hardcore boot camp. Slicing his blade through the air once more, our protagonist barked, "Still trash," without relying on any flashy secret arts or fancy mana manipulation. It honestly just looked like a generic heavy strike. Frustrated by the total lack of flair, a bunch of them, especially Tang Muyun, threw in the towel. Slumping against a massive oak, Muyun crossed her arms and grumbled in her head. Like, what is this basic-ass swing supposed to teach us? Is he just trolling us instead of actually training? If she'd known it was going to be this utterly pointless, she never would have opened her mouth. Honestly, it would have stung less if he'd just flat-out rejected her, right from the jump. But unlike Tang Muyun, who was totally side-eyeing Dan Hyunwoo's weird methods, his loyal squad knew there was a genius method to his madness. Dan Hyunwoo wasn't the type to just pull their leg or waste their time. So Young narrowed her eyes, completely locked in thinking. The ultimate secret to the heavenly lightning art has to be buried inside this exact motion. Out of nowhere, our boy grabbed her wrist, claiming he finally cracked the code on what was missing. Catching the vibe, Hongwan spun around, absolutely losing his mind as he yelled, "Yo, what the hell are you two doing? Get your hands off her this instant." But Hyunwoo completely ignored the old man. Calm. "Watch, this is how you execute it." So Young gasped internally as she felt it. The raw nerve endings in her sword hand were cranking up to a god-tier level of hypersensitivity. The puzzle pieces finally clicked. Channeling her inner ki, she hyped herself up, realizing, this is it, the pure aura supercharging the blade, compressing all that insane power into one concentrated stream before unleashing hell. Just one perfect current. And boom, So Young dropping the jaws of every single person watching. Muyun shrieked in pure shock. Wait a single flow. Our guy tilted his head, asking, "You got the hang of it now, blushing? Super hard." So Young awkwardly muttered that she probably couldn't pull off that insane flex solo. Just Hao was practically vibrating, screaming, "Bro, what was that? What the heck did she just figure out? Put me on, teach me, right now." Our protagonist just step up. Hao pumped his fist, yelling, "Hell yeah." Not wanting to miss out, Jin leaped forward, shouting, "Count me in." Catching the FOMO, Muyun huffed and demanded another shot at it. But our guy shot her a deadpan glare and hit her with a savage, "Nah, just drop it. You're cooked." "Excuse me?" Muyun shrieked, absolutely flabbergasted. She couldn't fathom why he was so chill about taking them on earlier, only to ghost her progress this brutally out of nowhere. Her grandpa quickly shut down her tantrum, warning her to chill. He knew that if this insane secret got leaked, she was literally the only prodigy. He nudged her to just have a little faith in the kid. Pouting like crazy, Muyun mumbled a salty "Fine. Whatever you say, Grandpa." Then our guy broke the tension, speaking up. Thanks to Dan Hyunwoo's crazy hands-on coaching, Tang Hongwan literally felt the raw spark of the heavenly lightning course through his veins. Wide-eyed, the old warrior gasped. Is this the real deal? He had finally grasped the absolute core of the Tang clan's legendary technique. His eyes practically bulged out of his skull as excitement took over, and his mind started racing. Man, if I could just fuse this insane voltage with my falling petal rain, it'd be game over. He whipped his head, begging for another round to test this god-tier buff. Sweating a bit, So Young chuckled. "Elder Tang, you are honestly built different with this grind." Hao nodded in respect, noting the old man is clearly chasing a peak he'll do literally anything to reach. Our boy didn't even flinch. Honestly, Dan Hyunwoo was having the time of his life, soaking in all this hype. Bowing his head, Hongwan hyped him up with gratitude and pointed toward an open clearing so they could really throw down. Because let's be real, a life where you only swing a blade just to avoid getting bodied is absolutely tragic. A chill vibe, where the squad can just kick back, swap epic lore, and level each other up. That's the real endgame everyone's hustling for. This wasn't a bloody death match. It was just a pure hype sparring session where nobody was catching a dirt nap today. Our protagonist unsheathed his steel, and Hongwan smirked, yelling, "I'm taking the vanguard today. Let's see if you can block this kid." He was living for this adrenaline rush. The veteran launched himself into the air, roaring, "Here we go." Hyunwoo locked onto his target just as Hongwan unleashed a massive surge of aura, triggering a devastating storm of lethal. I actually managed to channel that electric spark straight into these needles. Damn, Elder Tang, your technique is absolutely cracked. A bystander gasped. "Bro, those projectiles are breaking the sound barrier. My eyes can't even track them." If some random NPC was caught in that crossfire, they'd be instantly turned into a pincushion by those hundreds of glowing spikes. But to an absolute unit like Dan Hyunwoo, Elder Tang's ultimate storm just looked like a pathetic flurry of dead autumn leaves floating in the breeze. Hongwan practically cheered. This power is completely insane. In a flash, Hyunwoo twirled his blade effortlessly, swatting away the entire barrage. The old man's smile completely vanished as he realized, no way. He just deflected my ultimate move with a basic-ass swing. Our boy casually asked why the heck he was chucking those needles with such a janky form. Totally baffled, Hongwan stammered, "Wait, what do you mean, janky?" Sweeping his blade forward, the protagonist demonstrates. Like this dude. This angle packs way more punch. He deflected the whole swarm straight back at Hongguan, who screamed, "Holy crap, this is it." And right in that split, Tang Hongguan's lifelong obsession with unlocking the Tang clan's true heavenly lightning completely materialized before his eyes. Collapsing to his knees in pure awe, the old master How in the world did you just do that? You have to tell me the secret. Watching from the sidelines, Muyun's mind was completely blown that Grandpa has been grinding his whole life to find. Did this kid seriously just casually spawn it from his fingertips? Just who the heck is this monster? And like that, after 3 grueling days of grinding, Dan Hyung-woo and his crew pushed through the final leg of their journey. Dead in their tracks, they froze. "We're finally home," Sol-young breathed out. But the sight waiting for them crushed any shred of relief. Mountains of shattered rubble choked the earth. "There's literally nothing left standing," one of the guys muttered. Pei let out a heavy sigh. "Looks like we're building this from the ground up. Young miss, do you want to swing by the Cho family estate?" Sol-young swallowed hard, the silence stretching. "I do," she finally choked out, "but I'm terrified." She just couldn't face it yet. The Cho ancestral manor, utterly annihilated by the blood demon, held every single warm memory of the family she cherished. Cho Sol-young just couldn't process that they were actually gone. Pei offered a sympathetic look. "Young miss," he started, totally getting her heartbreak. "But let's be real. We don't exactly need 2 massive properties to revive the Henan Security Agency right now." She had to make the tough call. "Should we clear out the Cho estate?" Pei pressed gently. "Wait, what?" She blinked, caught off guard. Suddenly an older gentleman stepped up. "If you give the green light, I'm ready to buy the land off you." "I've been meaning to set up a Suzhou branch anyway," Sol-young gasped. "Elder Tang," he gave a reassuring nod. "Hand the deed over to me, and my clan will treat it with the utmost respect. You can drop by whenever you want. Your core memories. They'll stay perfectly safe right there. If the Tang clan is willing to do that, I owe you everything," she said, her voice shaking with immense gratitude. Pei smirked inwardly. Having the Tang family step in takes a massive weight off the young mistress's shoulders. Plus, it's a total win-win for their business anyway. But honestly, until they fully mastered the true heavenly lightning arts, this gave them the ultimate excuse to stick like glue to Dan Hyung-woo. Hyo instantly chimed in. "I'm crashing here too. I want to absorb every single technique. You can teach me." She threw him a confident smirk. "And, as the Yuman clan will funnel all the premium supplies you need to resurrect the Henan Security Agency. We've got the connections." The MC slowly pivoted. Hyo locked eyes with him, practically begging for the chance to prove the Uman clan rumors. Did they really monopolize 1/3 of the world's cash? Not just a rumor, she flexed. "So, do I look a little more valuable to you guys now?" Hyung-woo gave a single knowing nod. Crystal clear. She wasn't budging an inch until the compound was fully restored. "Duh," Hyo yelled out, hyped up. "The Uman clan never backs a hustle, unless the return on investment is insane." One of the workers stretched his arms. "All right, break time's over. Let's grind." A seasoned warrior eyed the endless wreckage they'd come back to. "What are you guys just standing around for?" he barked. Sol-young stepped up. "You've all bled enough for us. Once the agency is back on its feet, you can grab your severance checks and walk away free." Jang Gil shook his head, his eyes burning. "This agency means just as much to us as it does to you. We're not dipping. We want to stay in the trenches and rebuild, if you'll still have us. Plus, man, we literally don't have anywhere else to call home." Sol-young and Pei traded stunned looks. Tears pricked her eyes as a massive smile broke out. "I wouldn't have it any other way. Welcome back." And just like that, with their raw willpower and loyalty fused together, the Henan Security Agency, a name almost wiped from the brutal underworld of the Jianghu, sparked right back to life from the dead ashes. The MC casually hoisted a massive timber log with one bare hand, leaving the crew totally starstruck. He was practically radiating that limitless, absolute boss energy of Dan Hyung-woo. Meanwhile, in another location, a shadowed figure scowled. "Sorry to crash the party," he sneered mockingly. "You've been hustling way too hard." In a flash, elite assassins swarmed the disciples inside the Hua clan's sacred grounds. The chief's face twisted in pure rage. "We already scrapped the thunder bombs and the true heavenly lightning arts. What's the damn point of this slaughter?" The assassin shot back ice cold. "Direct orders from the overlord. We wipe the Hua clan off the map, so nobody else can ever snag those explosive blueprints. The chief went pale. What? Snatching his blade, he lunged forward in a desperate frenzy. He swung for the kill, but the assassin simply dodged, completely unbothered. Mission accomplished. Heading back to base. With a flick of his wrist, the killer dropped a primed explosive. A split second later, absolute hellfire engulfed the courtyard. Just like the legendary Thunderstrike clan that used to terrorize the Jianghu, the mighty Hua clan estate was instantly reduced to rubble, totally deleted from the martial arts history books. Cut to Go-Un, the supreme shot caller of the Murim Alliance, slamming his hands on the briefing table. We still have zero clue who leveled the Cho family compound, he growled. And now the Hua clan, the last heirs to the Thunderstrike legacy, have been completely wiped out. An Alliance member panicked, screaming out. Those psychos definitely got their hands on the bomb blueprints. Another elder chimed in, sweating bullets. We need to act right now. The entire Jianghu is drowning in sketchy intel and terrifying rumors. A bloodbath is coming. Right now, the Murim Alliance is absolutely scrambling to piece together the truth. If those psychos are actually weaponizing the thunder bombs, it is going to trigger an absolute bloodbath. Dako's brow twisted into a hard nod. Who exactly were these ghosts, and why were they trying to burn everything to the ground? Cut to the shadows, where a demonic figure let out a chilling laugh. Flawless execution. They completely wiped the floor with that Hua clan trash. His subordinate bowed low, asking if the boss had figured out what to do with that problematic porter from the Henan escort agency. The demon waved it off. It is literally just one guy. Where is the shadow demon at right now? The henchman sighed. Same as always, passed out drunk somewhere in Henan. A wicked grin crept across the demon's face. Ship him to Suchong. The shadow demon and his hit squad should easily be able to crush that freak of nature Zhang Il created. Meanwhile, as the martial world braced for a massive shakeup, the brand new Henan escort agency was already getting built at lightning speed. Suddenly Pyo skidded to a halt and yelled out, "Young lady Xiao Young." She spun around, eyes wide. Escort warrior Hyunwoo, what is going on? Pyo was practically out of breath. We finally got it, our first official commission. Shoyoung's face lit up. That is insane. Who is the client? Pyo locked eyes with her. We are escorting the daughter of Gum Jae-hwang, but there is a massive catch. The guy riding shotgun with her, it is the Sword King himself. Seol-young gasped, the literal Sword King. The MC slowly turned his head, locking onto the conversation. And just like that, Dan Hui's second escort mission officially kicks off. Here is the real tea on this gig. Gum Jae-hwang is a legendary merchant and a heavy-hitting martial artist in Henan. He needs his daughter, Gum Yuha, safely transported to Suzhou. Seol-young furrowed her brows. Did you dig up the real reason behind this job? Pyo nodded sharply. Obviously. Jae-hwang recently shook hands with the Golden League merchants. Immediately after that, the Godless League started breathing down his neck. They are definitely hunting for the Golden League's massive cash flow. Because of that, Jae-hwang is literally using his own daughter as live bait. Seol-young looked totally horrified. Bait? Are you kidding me right now? Pyo shook his head. The two massive factions are gearing up for an all-out war. The travel route heads straight down to Suzhou, right into the Golden League's home turf. The Godless League is absolutely going to ambush her on the road. And while all their aggro is locked onto the girl, the Golden League plans to launch a sneak attack to nuke their main base. Seol-young crossed her arms, still stressed. But does not that put his daughter in crazy amounts of danger? Pyo's expression turned dead serious. That is exactly why they brought the Sword King into the mix. Gum Yuha is engaged to the future boss of the Golden League. So while she is playing the decoy, they flexed their wealth and hired a top 10 global powerhouse to bodyguard her. Nobody is touching a hair on her head. So what is the move? Do we take the job? Seol-young bit her lip. Can we seriously handle beefing with the Godless League? Pyo exhaled sharply. We can, but it is going to be incredibly messy. Seol-young shifted her gaze to the MC. What is your call, Hyunwoo? He threw a cool, unbothered glance right back at them. Cut to a luxury carriage was tearing through the dense forest. Up front, the driver excitedly whipped the reins, completely hyped. Finally, he was actually out here running an official escort mission. He thought his past martial arts hustle would go completely ignored, but he finally made the cut. Normally, he would be absolutely vibing right now, but he just could not shake off this gut-wrenching dread. He side-eyed the MC, swallowing hard. It is all because of this dude. The guy has been giving off literal serial killer energy since day one. At first, Chung-gil thought the guy was just salty about being outranked. But honestly, the MC clearly did not give a single damn about ranks. Chung-gil desperately hoped his paranoia was just pre-battle jitters. Inside the plush cabin sat Yeom Chol-gun, the legendary Sword King. Yuha sneaked a nervous peek at him, completely mind-blown. This man literally blew up in the martial world 60 years ago. He has got to be at least 80. But sitting right there, the guy barely looked 40. Chol-gun caught her staring. Just relax, kid. I will not let a single blade touch you. Yuha swallowed hard. Right, thank you, sir. Chol-gun's eyes fluttered open, his gaze piercing right through the carriage walls. Interesting. Out of all those guards riding up front, only one of them is radiating a truly monstrous aura. Meanwhile, outside, Hyun-woo had officially 0 patience left. Mumbling about the cramped space, he effortlessly vaulted up, landing totally silently on the carriage roof. Honestly, Hyun-woo could not care less about an ambush, or the fact that a literal Sword King was sitting beneath his boots. Yeah, this is way better, he muttered, stretching out. Riding up front was way too claustrophobic anyway. Inside, Chol-gun smirked. Bold move, treating the roof like a lounge chair. Then the Sword King's voice dropped. The rats from the Godless League are finally making their move. Yuha flinched. Wait, what? Instantly masked assassins swarmed the tree line. A brutal roar echoed out. Target, the luxury carriage. Slaughter them. The MC just stood there, dead-eyed, while Chung-gil screamed in pure panic. Hyun-woo, watch your back, down below. Chol-gun's grip tightened on his hilt, explosive mana surging from his blade. I will take out the trash. Stay put, Chol-gun ordered casually. Yuha barely nodded before the legendary Grandmaster vanished through the carriage doors into the fray. The enemy thugs totally lost it, screaming, "Who the heck is this guy? Rush him, everyone." Chol-gun just lazily swung his blade, muttering, "Man, you guys are way too loud." He sliced through their ranks in a flash, then suddenly paused, completely lost in thought. Guarding this VIP carriage was the escort agency's main job, right? They totally shouldn't have just stood there waiting for him to step up. But honestly, not a single fighter could— But wait, did he even bother to watch Chol-gun squinted ahead? The kid is gone, he realized. Did he seriously miss that entire masterclass? He never takes his eyes off a threat he cannot crush. Who exactly is this dude? Meanwhile, Chung-gil turned to Hyun-woo and asked, "Hey, the squad tailing us, did you wipe them out?" The MC just shrugged. "Nah, not me. The Sword King totally handled the trash. Just chill, tell the driver to keep moving." "All right, bet," Chung-gil muttered. Just as they pulled away, one of the battered grunts struggled to sit up, glaring daggers at their fading— Cut to the League of the Godless headquarters, where a furious roar absolutely shook the walls. You couldn't snatch a single helpless girl, and you managed to get our entire elite squad wiped out." The terrified grunt groveled for his life. Seol Chon-hak, the big boss of the Godless League, scoffed. "The Heng Shan operation was a total bust, but we are absolutely not failing this time. Jun Jahan straight up hired a top-tier martial artist just to babysit his precious daughter. I will personally show him that mercenaries chasing a paycheck are fundamentally weak. Just you wait, you Golden League mutts." A few hours later, our crew's carriage finally rolled into the bustling city. The waiter slammed down a steaming bowl, sighing. "Here is dish number 20. Enjoy your meal, folks." You would think the 4 of them had been starving for weeks. Chol-gun chuckled. "Kid, you seriously went crazy with the menu." Yuha smiled softly. "You must be a massive foodie." The MC did not even look up. "Yeah, I love food." Chung-gil busted out laughing. "Dude, you pack away way more calories than your skinny frame suggests." He stared in sheer disbelief at the towering stack of empty plates Hyun-woo had just absolutely demolished. How was he even tasting anything, vacuuming it up at warp speed? Chung-gil figured he would test the grub himself. He took a bite, instantly gagging. "Bro, do your taste buds even work?" The MC casually fired back. "Food is meant to be devoured, not stared at like a museum piece." Chung-gil shrieked. "Wait, did you seriously jack my portion too? How can you do me dirty like this?" Yuha watched the chaos, low-key impressed. Wild, she thought. He practically inhaled all that food in record time, and we haven't even picked up our chopsticks yet. This was honestly the first time since the escort mission started that she got a chance to actually study him. Even with the Henan agency falling off, there was no way they would send a complete scrub. But honestly, Aside from having a black hole for a stomach, the guy just seemed super basic. So why the heck was the legendary Sword King acting like a total fanboy around him? Seconds later, the MC patted his stomach, declaring it an absolute banger of a meal. Chung-gil lost his mind. What do you mean a banger? We literally got 0 bites because of you. Just then, the sweating innkeeper nervously shuffled over. Bowing deeply, he stammered that the kitchen was completely wiped out of it. Yua glanced at her squad. You guys still starving? How about I buy us a round of drinks instead? She personally stayed sober, but Chul-gun gripped his empty cup, a dark look crossing his face. If you've got booze left, I'll definitely down it, he grunted. Yua nodded. Chung-gil side-eyed them both, wondering if being a top-tier martial artist just naturally gave you a crack. The poor dude had not even managed a single sip of water yet. Suddenly the MC and Chul-gun locked eyes, their expressions instantly hardening. Hidden perfectly around the dark corner, a shady figure was closely watching their table. A voice whispered, "You played your part perfectly." A group of thugs had their blades pressed against the innkeeper's terrified daughters. "Thanks to your smart little choice, you just bought your family's lives," they sneered. Choi Ho-ryung, an elite from the Godless Alliance, smirked wickedly in the shadows. He bragged, "I don't care how OP the Sword King thinks he is. There's no dodging a poison designed to completely melt away internal energy. Give it a minute," he plotted. "Once his chi totally evaporates, we will jump the Sword King and end him." A few hours later, someone yawned. "All right, good night, everyone." Chung-gil spat bitterly. "I am so ridiculously starving I'm going to be up all night, and it is all thanks to the human garbage disposal over there." The MC just lazily replied, "Look, you really didn't want to eat that." "Wait, excuse me," Chung-gil snapped. He flopped onto his bed, fuming. "Is this guy seriously telling me I deserve to starve? I've been busting my back all day. Total BS. Starting tomorrow, I am eating at my own table." Once Chung-gil finally started snoring, Dan Hyun-woo sat up and effortlessly purged the chi-draining poison right out of his system. Down the hall, the Godless Alliance finally made their move. Ho-ryung crept into Yua's pitch-black room, totally hypnotized. Wow, she really is. Major bummer that she is untouchable cargo. But hey, if I don't leave any evidence behind, no one will ever know, right? He creepily reached his hand out toward the sleeping girl, when out of nowhere, a lethal strike blitzed him. Chul-gun practically deleted the assassin in one swing. "So you're the absolute clowns who ruined my buzz tonight," he growled. The dying thug choked out, "How?" Chul-gun just mercilessly crushed the rest of the squad, then glanced back at Yua. "Thank God I handled the trash before she woke up," he muttered. He stared down the remaining cowards. "Think you can walk out of here alive?" Meanwhile, in the other room, the MC was casually finishing his own poison detox. Morning rolled around, and Chung-gil stretched, totally refreshed. But the second his eyes snapped open, he froze, staring straight at an awake MC, surrounded by a pile of lifeless bodies. Where did all these dead guys come from? The MC did not even flinch, casually brushing it off. "Glad you slept great too. Since you are up, be a pal and clean up the—" Shaking like a leaf, Chung-gil choked out, "Oh, okay." His mind was racing. How deep of a sleeper was he? Just what kind of absolute bloodbath went down while he was— Once the gruesome chore was done, the duo stepped outside. A sly smirk crept across, wiping out an entire hit squad, solo, in a single night. This guy's combat stats were off the charts. Shrugging it off, they finally— As their carriage rumbled down the dirt path, a shadowy figure lurked in an alleyway, backed by a squad of ruthless assassins. He barked an order to his lackey, "Report this to the big boss immediately." It was Jin Chong-yuk, the terrifying second-in-command of the Godless Union's Black Blood swordsmen. "Tell him we are dealing with the Sword King himself," he growled. "This is way above our pay grade. The boss needs to step in and handle this personally." With a sharp wave of his hand, he roared, "Move out!" High above a flock of jet-black crows circled the carriage, catching Hyun-woo's razor-sharp gaze. Back in the ride, Chung-gil muttered about the village being tiny, but Yua chimed in, her voice dripping with unease. "It is not just small," she whispered. "It is a total ghost town. The vibes here are seriously off." Just then, a paranoid local peeked at them through the blind and instantly slammed the shutters tight. "They are absolutely terrified," Hyun-woo noted coldly. Rolling deeper into town, they finally pulled up to the moon and stepped out into the dead silence. Chung-gil scanned the empty tavern. No customers, no boss, This place is completely It was not just the inn, the entire settlement felt like a graveyard. Chung-gil's face twisted. Looks like the Godless Union is planning a full-scale wipeout tonight. Yua's eyes went wide in panic. Wait, what are you talking about? A crushing wave of dread suddenly washed over her. Staring into the creeping shadows,